Chapter 772. Pei Lang coughed twice and coughed out a few piles of red blood before smiling with difficulty. Many thanks for your highness' great kindness, but this official has no relation with the Shun family and is unable to answer your highness' question. Most likely, even the heavens do not give this official this opportunity. It is such a pity. Fu Xiu, he looked at him expressionlessly and laughed lightly after a long while. He dusted his hands and brushed away the blood that splashed on his body and said, "Mister's bones are hard. This prince admires it very much and is also very curious to see how long Mister's bones can last." He waved his hand at the people around him. "These things are not good enough for Mister. We can't use them. Let's exchange them for something better." He took a step back and was about to leave when he suddenly thought of something and said, "Even if teacher does not say, this prince can find out the Shun family secret. But this prince would also like to ask Mister. One heard that the Shun family values friendship and righteousness, and Mister is willing to sacrifice your life. One do not know if General Shun will send someone to rescue Mister out of the fire pit." He left with his guards. After Fu Xiu left, Pei Lang fiercely spat out a large mouthful of blood. This prince who looked gentle and scheming actually had such a vicious and ruthless side. It was just that Fu Xiu's last sentence that made him smile bitterly. It was not false that the Shun family valued friendship and righteousness, but the person that he was handling things for was Shun Miao. Shun Miao valued friendship and righteousness, but that was only to the Shun family. Other than her relatives and friends, others were not important in Shun Miao's eyes. As for whether or not Fu Xiu would come to save him, Pei Lang felt that it should not be the case. Not to mention, if Shun Miao had the ability to fish people out from the residence of Prince Ding, it was the most secretive dungeon. At the beginning, when Shun Miao wanted him to be a hidden chess piece by Fu Xiu's side, she should have expected that there would be such a day. Shun Miao had long known that once Fu Xiu found out, Pei Lang's ending would be extremely miserable, but she still did it. Rationally, he knew that Shun Miao would not come to save him, but Pei Lang's heart actually had a trace of faint expectation. He also could not tell what kind of feeling he had towards Shun Miao. Initially, when Shun Miao used Lu Ying to threaten him, Pei Lang's heart was somewhat disgusted as he hated the feeling of being threatened and not being able to control himself. But later, he did not know why, but he really treated himself as Shun Miao's person. He would worry for Shun Miao and do his best to be a good chess piece. Pei Lang himself was unable to understand his own way of doing things. He thought that he probably owed Shun Miao something in his previous life so that he would follow her around in this life and almost change his life. The guard responsible for torturing him came again. Pei Lang put aside the thought in his mind and began a new round of torture. What he did not know was that in Prince Rui's residence, Hualong and Nightingale were sitting on a tree eating melon seeds. Nightingale asked, "Boss Ji and Master Gao haven't come out yet. How long are they going to guard the tower prison?" Hualong spat out a melon seed shell and said, "I reckon that Master has completely forgotten about this matter. Master had been running around outside these past few days. How could he have the time to care about other people? I heard that the Great Liang Palace has sent another letter to urge you. Mistress probably wants to finish these matters and return to the palace as soon as possible." "That's right, but Boss G has been staying in the tower prison." "What about the news from the Feng Xian pawn shop? Want to delay things?" Hualong rolled her eyes at Nightingale. "The Feng Xian pawn shop earns money, and naturally the MOU army will report the information to Master. Moreover, Boss G's own concerns are all inexplicable matters, so how would there be any proper matters? Worry for nothing." When Nightingale heard this, she felt that her companion's words were reasonable and said, "That is also true. Why bother so much? There are some things in the world that were a freak combination of factors. Sometimes a small change would cause the entire trajectory of the matter to change." In the study of the Feng Xian pawn shop's Linjiang Immortal Tower, there was a thick stack of letters at the corner of the desk. Most likely no one tidied it up as it was covered with a layer of dust. And at the bottom of the stack was a letter with 3 words written on the envelope. Chapter 773. Prince Ding Residence. Because of this, the residence of Prince Ding would occasionally have some movements, not to mention the residence of the Crown Prince. Emperor Wenhui had the intention to return the favor to the Crown Prince and let the Crown Prince build a good relationship with Huangfu Hao. Thus Huangfu Hao could come to the Crown Prince's residence openly, and there was no need to sneak in without being discovered. But it was not something that Emperor Wenhui could manage about coming to the Crown Prince residence to discuss with him. The Crown Prince poured some wine for Huangfu Hao and smiled. "What does Brother Huangfu think of my words just now?" Huangfu Hao smiled, neither agreeing nor disagreeing, and said, "Your plan is really good. Ben Gong will be the bad guy, and you'll get a good reputation, and you'll even get a beautiful woman." The Crown Prince was not angry and followed up with a smile. "A gentleman has the beauty of helping others succeed. If it is possible, Ben Gong would be happy to see fifth Xin young lady become your Qin country's Crown Prince consort. But everyone knows that this is impossible." The Qin Emperor did not have the heart to marry another country's official's daughter to his Crown Prince. The title of the Crown Princess not only represented a woman, but also represented the power of this woman's family. It would be best if she could help the Crown Prince. As a Ming Qi person, Shen Miao was unable to help Huangfu Hao. Needless to say, Shen Xin was also reluctant to let his daughter marry to the Qin country. Huangfu Hao shook his head. "What's the rush? This Empress didn't say that I'm going to steal someone else's love." But he looked towards the Crown Prince. Ben Gong is not one who likes to do good deeds all day long. Moreover, to use one's reputation to do good deeds. If General Shun later bear a grudge against Ben Gong, it would be difficult for Ben Gong to handle. When the Crown Prince heard this, he laughed. This Huangfu Hao was a smart person and quickly understood the benefits. Reputation was something that did not have any use in Ming Qi. Moreover, for Shen Miao to marry over, it was not a matter of doing many evil deeds. With just one sentence, Emperor Wenhui and the Crown Prince would owe Huangfu Hao a favor, so why not? Of course, Emperor Wenhui did not know how to exchange the favor that was owed. This matter was the Crown Prince's idea, and one could see how important this marriage was in the Crown Prince's heart. "Brother Huangfu, do you have any difficulties?" The Crown Prince asked with a smile. "It's not a big deal. It's just that I've embarrassed myself." Huangfu Hao sighed and pretended to be worried. "Although I'm the Crown Prince of Qin, even commoners have their own problems, not to mention this prince. Imperial father treats Ben Gong very well, but Ben Gong's brothers are troublesome. If there is a day when Ben Gong and my brothers have a dispute," he looked at the Crown Prince meaningfully. "At that time, please lend Ben Gong a hand." The Crown Prince was stunned for a moment before he cursed Huangfu Hao for being so cunning. Fighting for the throne was common in every country, especially in countries with many princes. But what Huangfu Hao meant was that if one day there was internal strife in the Qin kingdom and Huangfu Hao fought for the throne, the Crown Prince must help him. How would the Crown Prince of Ming Qi help the Crown Prince of the Qin country to fight for the throne? So he could only borrow troops. Huangfu Hao really had a good plan. Huangfu Hao saw his hesitation and laughed. "What are you hesitating for? Isn't what this consort is doing for you now the same thing?" The Crown Prince quivered and looked at Huangfu Hao without saying anything. If this time it was successful and Shen Miao married to him, the Shen family would be tied together with his residence of the Crown Prince. With the help of the Shen family, the Crown Prince's strength would increase greatly, and it would be an important weight in the fight for the throne. Now, that Huangfu Hao was helping him, wasn't it helping him to fight for the throne? In this way, it seemed that the conditions that Huangfu Hao gave were not that unacceptable. After all, he had gained more from this matter. The Crown Prince steeled his heart and said, "Good. This time Brother Huangfu has pulled out a knife to help. In the future, Ben Gong will definitely not stand idly by." Chapter 774. Huangfu Hao then smiled and exchanged toasts with the Crown Prince a few more times before saying, "But you really want to marry Shen Miao?" He saw the Crown Prince's puzzled expression and explained. Initially at the tribute banquet, Ben Gong saw that Shen Miao did not have a soft temperament, and one feared that she would be very fierce. "You are so confident that you can tame her?" "This is nothing. The crown prince waved his hands indifferently. No matter how fierce her temperament is, she is still a female. As long as it is a female, once they marry, they would put away that temper. To be honest with you, the crown prince's consort had a fierce temperament when she first came to the Eastern Palace, but until now she is still obedient to Ben Gong's wishes. Females, after putting in a little effort to coax them, they would be like a cat, and at the end they would be docile. When Huang Fu Hao heard it, he no longer said anything, but his heart was somewhat contemptuous. Princess Ming Yan's death was still a mystery until now, but Huang Fu Hao always felt that Shun Miao was involved in this matter. Afterwards, he did not know what happened between him and Fu Xiao Yi, but he was used by others, and now Fu Xiao Yi deliberately kept a distance from him. The Shun family was not ordinary, and there seemed to be someone guiding Shun Miao from behind. The crown prince's strength was not weak, but if he met Shun Miao, he might not be able to win. It was just that all these were insignificant to Huang Fu Hao. He was also happy to watch the show thus. After laughing a few times, he continued to drink and chat with the crown prince. At the other end, in the residence of the Minister of Land, Shun Miao actually replied to the invitation. She only said that Shun Dongling invited her over to taste the incense, and Shun Miao agreed, but she still needed to bring along Luo Jia's Biao young lady, Luo Tan. Wang Bai was very happy to see Shun Miao's reply and said to Shin Dongling, "Did not say that both of you sisters do not have any interactions, did not think that she would actually agree." Shin Dongling was also somewhat surprised, but her mouth was smiling. It seems that she is thinking about not meeting for a long time. After all, there are only the two of us sisters left in the residence. She took the invitation from Wang Bai's hands and looked at it carefully. In all fairness, Shin Dongling did not think that Shun Miao would actually reply to the invitation and even agree to taste the incense. With Shin Dongling's understanding of Shun Miao had a cautious nature, and it was impossible for her to come. It did not matter if Shun Miao was present or not. The reason why she wrote the invitation to Shun Miao was because she wanted to prove to Wang Bai that she was doing her best to work for Wang Bai and hoped that Wang Bai would remember her good deeds in the future. But who would have thought that Shun Miao would actually agree? Shin Dongling's thoughts changed. The reason why Shun Miao would bring Luo Tan along was most likely because Luo Tan knew martial arts, and with someone accompanying her, she would feel more at ease. Moreover, Shun Miao would definitely bring a lot of guards with her to ensure her safety. Since Shun Miao dared to come, she must have made a foolproof plan. But Shin Dongling did not care, as her purpose was not to scheme against Shin Miao. Shin Dongling nudged Wang Bai. "Husband, since fifth sister has agreed to come, it's better to find a reason for the future. Call His Highness the Crown Prince and Huang Fu Hao together. In the future, it can be said that Huang Fu Hao looked at fifth younger sister's dignified beauty during the incense tasting and fell in love with her. Wouldn't the matters after be more natural? You females are indeed more thoughtful." Wang Bai smiled as he put his arm around Shun Dongling's shoulders. With a wife like this, what more can a husband ask for? Shun Dongling smiled as she teased him, but her heart was thinking of another matter. Shin Miao had always been good at scheming against others, and in the entire Shin residence, when Ren Wan Yun and Shin Miao fought, Shin Dongling also saw it. At the end of the Shun family, the first household was able to preserve, and if one were to say that there was someone powerful, it would be Shun Miao and Shin Dongling. Chapter 775. Shin Dongling also wanted to see who was more powerful between her and Shin Miao. To include Shun Miao in one's own plans was much more interesting than scheming against Shun Yu. Shun Miao, who was being schemed by Shun Dongling, was currently holding her chin and playing chess with Xie Jingxing in the room. Xie Jingxing played a good game of chess and was different from Shun Miao's steady moves and planning step by step. Xie Jingxing seemed to be able to see the use of the chess pieces that she had already arranged. Wherever Shin Miao moved, Xie Jingxing would block at the corresponding place. After playing for more than an hour, Xie Jingxing had won several chess pieces from her, but the battle was still in a stalemate, and it was hard to separate them. In Shin Miao's previous life, in order to be able to chat with Fu Xiao Yi, she had trained hard in chess. Even if she was not number one, it would be hard to find an opponent. But under Xie Jingxing's hands, she could not kill, as Xie Jingxing was like a nemesis. Since learning chess, this was the first time that the Divine Temple wanted to take back a move. Seeing that Xie Jingxing had taken a few more of her chess pieces, Shun Miao said, "Tired. Do not want to play anymore. Do not want to play, or cannot play." Xie Jingxing said, "Beg me, and I will teach you." Shun Miao almost laughed at his words. It was only because Shun Miao had a good temper that he came over in the middle of the night to find someone to play chess with. Others would have long sent Xie Jingxing out. She said, "Thank you, but I do not want it." She did not intend to be a chess master, so what was the use of learning this? She was somewhat surprised that Xie Jingxing could play chess so well. Xie Jingxing's outstanding skills were on the battlefield, and she had never heard that he was particularly good in other areas. But thinking about it, this person was playing with the world in the palm of his hands, so what was a small chess piece? She asked, "Have your people and horses been arranged in 2 days' time?" 2 days later was the day of tasting incense, and it was also the first time she and Xie Jingxing joined hands to scheme against others. To scheme against 2 crown princes, one fear that if this was set out, it would make people feel terrified. But Shun Miao did not feel anything. She herself had given birth to a crown prince, and she really did not feel that the position of a crown prince was unattainable. Xie Jingxing was even more so. His older brother was the emperor and the crown prince was his nephew. So looking at it this way, she and Xie Jingxing felt that it was very appropriate to plot against the 2 crown princes. "Do not worry, it is absolutely safe," Xie Jingxing said. "Your horse carriage is also arranged. You really want to go?" He frowned. "You do not have to go." "Why not?" Shun Miao said, "Whether to go or not has nothing to do with me, but I hope that they can make it more grand." Shun Miao gently smiled. "If I were to go, they would only make the situation more realistic, but at the end they would discover that everything is wrong. Wouldn't it be more interesting?" Xie Jingxing said with a smile that was not a smile. "So ruthless." "Ruthless?" Shun Miao asked. "Ruthless." He nodded, his eyes sparkling like clear water. His thin lips curled up slightly. "But I like it." Shun Miao. Ever since that night, Xie Jingxing's words became more frivolous, but it was only in words. His actions were still very respectful to her. Shun Miao was not used to suddenly having someone squeeze into her life, but she had to admit that with Xie Jingxing around, many things became much easier. It seemed that the things that she had to put in a lot of effort to do could be easily solved by Xie Jingxing. But if one continued to rely on him like this, it would make one feel uneasy. Shun Miao had not learned how to trust a person, or rather, trust a man. She was courageous and resourceful in other matters, but in terms of relationships between men and women, she was severely injured. So even if she were to do it again, she would still be as clumsy as a child. Even if there was someone to gently teach her, she would still be clumsy and slow. Xie Jingxing stared at her carelessly, and his eyes were deep, not knowing what he was thinking about. With the chess pieces by his hand, the young female sat in a dignified and gentle manner. The lights made her look gentle and graceful, like a lotus in full bloom. And his face was handsome, and his dark eyes were as deep as the night. He looked at the other for a while thoughtfully before his lips suddenly hooked up into a smile. "After this matter is resolved, I will marry you, Shun Jiao Jiao." Chapter 776. 2 days later, Shun Miao woke up early and Luo Tan had long dressed up. Luo Tan had a lively temperament and was unable to sit still in the residence. Ever since that incident, Shun Xiao and Luo Ling reduced the number of times Shun Miao and Luo Tan, the 2 young ladies, went out. Even if he went out, he would be followed by a long line of guards. Shun Miao naturally did not care. She was not really a 16-year-old young lady and originally liked quietness, so there was no problem in staying in the residence for a while. It was Luo Ling who was not used to this. As long as he heard that he could go out of the residence to play, no matter what the reason was, he would always be in high spirits. Shun Xiao and Luo Ling exhorted a few words before letting Shun Miao bring Ah Chi and Imo Qing along. Qi and Mo Qing were the guard with the best martial arts in the entire Shen residence, but now they had become Shun Miao's personal guards. Shun Xiu said, "There's no need to aggrieve yourself. If there's anything you're not willing to do, you can just leave. There's no need to worry." In the beginning, when Shun Xiu knew that Shun Miao was going to Shun Dongling's appointment, he was actually against it. He did not know why, but Shun Xiu did not have any good impression of Shun Dongling. Even though Shun Dongling's performance was not as obvious as Shun Qing's and Shun Yu's, and previously in the Shun residence, she lived in harmony with the first household. But Shun Xiu did not know why, but he always felt that Shun Dongling was not a good person. Such a big matter happened to the second household of the Shun family, but only Shun Dongling and Wan Yinyang were safe and sound. And there was also the matter of Shun Yu and Shun Dongling exchanging marriage. Even though he did not understand the specific reason, Shun Xiu felt that it was related to Shun Dongling. Perhaps it was because people who had been on the battlefield would have an instinct to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. Shun Xiu was not willing to have more relations with Shun Dongling and naturally did not want Shun Miao and Shun Dongling to be too close. For a person like Shun Dongling, if she had any other thoughts toward Shun Miao and used Shun Miao to achieve her own selfish desires, that would not be good. Shun Miao smiled. "I know. There is still Biao, older sister, accompanying me. Nothing will happen." Luo Ting grinned and said, "That's right. If Cousin Xiu is really worried, you can come with us." Shun Xiu shook his head. "I still have matters to attend to at the military headquarters. Besides, I'm just a boar. Why would I go there to taste the incense? It'll choke my nose." Just like how the civil officials looked down on the vulgarity of the generals also couldn't understand the actions of the civil officials. Shun Xiu did not understand what was so good about this incense. Not to mention that there would be people who would spend a few hundred taels of silver for 1 or 2 sticks of incense, which was really surprising. Luo Tan said, "Do not worry, older brother Qiu. I will take good care of youngest Biao's sister." Shun Xiu scolded her with a stern face. "With your mediocre martial arts? I don't know who it was that almost lost their life last time, and even troubled imperial physician got to treat them for more than a month." Luo Tan was most afraid of people mentioning this matter, so she quickly stuck out her tongue and looked at Luo Ling for help. Luo Ling smiled gently. "No matter what, one must always be careful. After tasting the incense, come back earlier as the sky darkens early and it is not safe at young lady's home." When he was speaking, his eyes were staring at Shun Miao with concern. Previously, when the news that the crown prince had the intention to marry Shun Miao into the household was spread, Luo Shui Yin was busy arranging the marriage, and the first to speak was Luo Ling. There was nothing to say about Luo Ling's character and family background, and they were all from the same family, so Luo Shui Yin was most optimistic about Luo Ling. Afterwards, because of Prince Rui's words, the marriage was suppressed, and the matter of Luo Shui Yin finding a good person for Shun Miao was not as urgent as before. But Luo Ling had already expressed his feelings to Luo Shui Yin and Shun Exant. Thus some matters were especially obvious. This kind of unconcealed affection, even if Shun Miao was in charge of the 6 palaces and was used to seeing facts, she was unable to turn a blind eye to it and could only slightly avoid it, save it. Many thanks to older brother Ling's concern. Luo Tin urged to leave and only said, "All right, it is better to set off quickly. It would not be good if one were to be late on the road." Chapter 777. Both of them then said their goodbyes and followed the carriage forward. In the carriage, Luo Tan said, "Biao, youngest sister, what exactly are you thinking?" Shun Miao turned her head to look at her and said inexplicably, "What is thinking?" "About your marriage." Luo Tan had an appearance of being very worried for her. "Even if the crown prince's side is temporarily resting, there will be a day where you will have to marry. Previously, I heard Gumu say that this year your marriage must be settled. Otherwise, one would not be the crown prince. Your conditions are so good that it would inevitably attract others to covet." Shun Miao did not speak. The position of the Shun family in Ming Qi was indeed very subtle. If used well, it would be a sharp sword, but if used badly, it would bring disaster. But one thing was certain, The imperial family of Ming Qi only had fear of the Shun family. They wanted the soldiers in Shun Xian's hands, and as for the person who would lead the troops, if there was a day where they had the troops, then they would not even try. So as the only daughter of the Shun family, the meaning of in-laws was too much. There were times when one could not control oneself, and it was not something that she could decide. Uncontrollably, Shen Miao's mind floated back to the words that Xie Jingxing said to her that day. After this matter is settled, I will marry you, Shun Jiao Jiao. He said it plainly, and in such a sudden situation, it did not seem to be a promise, but it was like he was guaranteeing something. The most important thing was that when he said it, there was an unquestionable flavor, as if he could do it if he said it. But how could that be possible? One was the daughter of the Ming Qi's general, and the other was Prince Rui of the Great Liang. To say it in a bad way, the Great Liang was strong, and with the identity of Prince Rui, even the princess of Ming Qi would be considered to be climbing up the social ladder, not to mention her. And if she really married over, what would happen to the Shun family's position? It was really a difficult matter. Shen Miao's eyes were deep in thought when she was suddenly pushed by Luo Tan. She recovered her senses and heard Luo Tan saying, "What are you thinking about so hard that you did not even answer my question?" Shen Miao asked, "What did you ask me?" Luo Tan looked at her helplessly and said after a long while, "I ask you, among the few people that came to propose, who do you like the most?" Shen Miao was surprised for a moment, but Luo Tan was already counting with her fingers. Older brother Ling is gentle and considerate and also knows everything. Su Mingfeng has deep feelings for you, and Su Foren also likes you very much. Feng Zixian looks like an educated and reasonable person, and with Feng and Ning's protection, you will live well. These three people are considered young talents. Luo Tan leaned close to Shen Miao and carefully observed Shen Miao's expression. "You do not like any of them?" Shen Miao laughed in spite of herself. "No." Luo Tan sat up straight and guided patiently. "Biao, youngest sister, this is not right. Although it was good to pursue perfection in everything, it was not good to be too demanding. From what I have seen these few days, these three are already the top talents in the Ding capital. If they were placed in the Shaochun city, one feared that the young ladies would fight over the position of a concubine. All three of them agreed not to take concubines." She looked at Shen Miao for a while before shaking her head and sighing. "But thinking about it, usually you do not have any special feelings towards these three people, so it is assumed that you are not tempted. I saw that it was written in the book that a tempted young lady's face would be as red as rosy clouds, and the little deer would run wild. The deer in your heart has not been born yet." Shen Miao listened to Luo Tan's messy words and found it funny. "What nonsense are you talking about? Why do you care so much about my matters? Could it be that you are sick?" "You do not say." Luo Tan covered her throat. "These few days my throat is dry, and one fear that I went out at night to blow. One originally wanted to look for physician, got to take a look at my illness, but one did not even see his shadow these few days." Luo Tan was somewhat dissatisfied. Really a physician without medical ethics. Chapter 778. Shen Miao was somewhat speechless. Not to mention that Gao Yang's real identity was an official of the Great Liang. Even in Ming Qi, he was an imperial physician. Only Luo Tan would come and treat people with headaches and fever all day long. But at the other end, Shun Dongling was dressing up in the residence. Today she was dressed very simply, as if she did not put on any makeup. She was wearing a rosin-colored begonia dress, which was naturally made of the best material. But the jewelry was mainly simple jade ornaments. Xinghua looked left and right and said, "Why is Foren dressed up so simply today? Even though Foren is naturally beautiful, when one is out, is it not better to be more beautiful?" "What do you know?" Shen Dongling looked at the beauty in the mirror. Her looks were very good and had the delicateness and elegance of one Yin when she was young. Even if she wore such simple clothes, she looked somewhat dainty in it. Most likely it was because she had become a married woman. There was an inexplicable charm to her. The servants in the residence would sometimes whisper behind one's back, saying that Shun Dongling looked like a concubine. Most of the matriarchs of large families had upright facial features, mellow and blessed, and looked honest. But Shun Dongling had big eyes, a sharp chin, and was as pretty as a fox, which was the typical face of a concubine. Wang Furen and Master Wang also had some complaints about this, but Wang Bai liked it, so everything else could be ignored. Shun Dongling looked at it for a moment before pulling out the jade hairpin on her head and replaced it with a plain silver hairpin. When Xinghua saw this, she wanted to speak but hesitated. Shun Dongling said, "No need to think so much. Recently, I am not playing the lead role, and dressing up too flashy would instead steal the limelight. I would not do such a silly thing. There are plenty of opportunities to compete for beauty, and this time is not a bad thing." When Xinghua heard it, she said, "Furen's beauty is natural. There's no need to compare. It is also a first-class beauty." Shun Dongling's expression was happy after hearing what was said, but what made her even happier was not Xinghua's flattery. Today was the day that the crown prince of the Qin would fall in love at first sight with Shun Niao, and she was just a foil. The more she appeared dejected, the more it would set off Shun Miao's beauty, and the more natural this marriage would be. However, since many people were required to witness the marriage, naturally, the more the merrier. Wang Bao would also be there. In this way, he could constantly remind the crown prince that Wang Bao had contributed the most to this wonderful event. Shun Dongling stood up and took another look at the invitation. The time on the invitation was Sea Hour. It was still very early. She said, "I'll go out and have a meal with my husband first. After that, I'll go to Yifeng Pavilion. It's just the right time." What she didn't know was that while she was having breakfast with Wang Bai, Huang Fu Hao had already left. The place to taste the incense was at the Yifeng Pavilion. The Yifeng Pavilion was a pavilion in the outskirts of the Ding capital and was once renovated by the late emperor for the late empress. Located in the Yifeng Pavilion, one could see the deep valley below and the blue sky above. Wealthy people who were particular about elegance would often like to taste the incense at the Yifeng Pavilion. When a stick of incense was lit, a breeze would blow past, and it would pierce through the blue sky, making one feel a sense of vastness. Even though it was winter now, but it just so happened that the valley below was covered in silver, so it was even more interesting to boil the snow and discuss the fragrance. Huang Fu Hao looked at the exquisite invitation and smiled. To fall in love at first sight with an official's daughter in such a beautiful place, it sounded not bad. But it would only benefit others, and he would tie them up to put on a show. Huang Fu Hao's guards rushed over and said that the horse carriage was ready and could set off. Huang Fu Hao then frowned and walked towards the residence's entrance. No matter what, it was too early for the higher-ups to insist on arriving at the Yifeng Pavilion in the early hours of the morning. They even wanted him to apply for leave early in the morning. Chapter 779. It was just that no matter how dissatisfied Huang Fu Hao was, he could only comply. Yifeng Pavilion was in the outskirts and was some distance away from the Ding capital. Thus one had to depart when the sky had just brightened. After reaching the outskirts, there was still a long mountain road. Luckily, there was a wealthy family that specially built a road for the horse carriages, else it would be much more difficult to walk. Even so, it would take a while to reach the Yifeng Pavilion. Huang Fu Hao let his guards stay at the waist of the mountain and walked forward alone. It was not because of anything else, but the invitation specifically instructed him not to bring any guards over. The more guards there were, the more unnatural this marriage would be. Moreover, the crown prince would arrive earlier to discuss with Huang Fu Hao, thus it would be inconvenient to bring more people. Huang Fu Hao was not afraid of any accidents at all. Firstly, the crown prince would definitely have other guards placed in this place, so there was no need to worry about assassins. Secondly, the crown prince would not make a move on him as there were so many people watching. When he went out today, the people from the residence of Prince Qin would know that he was here for the crown prince's appointment. If anything were to happen to him, the crown prince would not be able to escape responsibility. Therefore, Huang Fu Hao calmly left the guards behind and went up himself. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world, and Huangfu Hao very quickly paid the price of his own conceited decision. When Huangfu Hao was walking up from the waist of the mountain, the Crown Prince was also walking towards Yifeng Pavilion with his guard from another path. Both of them happened to maintain a distance of one in front and one behind. The gap was not big, but because they were not on the same path and direction, they just missed each other. After the time it took for 2 incense sticks to burn, Huangfu Hao reached Yifeng Pavilion. In the long pavilion of Yifeng Pavilion, there was already a person sitting there. When that person saw Huangfu Hao, he immediately stood up. It was the Crown Prince. Huangfu Hao was somewhat surprised, as he did not expect that the Crown Prince would arrive earlier than him. As such, the time that was requested on the invitation was not that unacceptable. After all, the other party had arrived earlier. He looked left and right and said, "Why are the others not here? Since there was going to be a love at first sight show, how would the show start if no one else was here?" The Crown Princess smiled and said, "There's no rush. There's no rush. I called you here so early today because I have something to say to you in private." Huangfu Hao felt that something was amiss, but he didn't think too much about it. His guards were stationed halfway up the mountain and would be able to rush over in time. Seeing that the Crown Prince's guards were by his side, he knew that nothing would go wrong. He then asked, "Please speak." The Crown Prince walked to Huangfu Hao's side and said, "Brother Huangfu, don't you find it strange why I've called you over so early today, and why I have Brother Huangfu's guards stay at the waist of the mountain? They probably have something important to discuss." Huangfu Hao was a little impatient to argue with the Crown Prince. The two of them had already reached this stage. There was no need to hide anything. "Brother Huangfu, don't you think this is like trying to silence them?" the Crown Prince asked. Huangfu Hao laughed loudly and said, "Joking is not your style." The Crown Prince did not reply. Huangfu Hao turned to look at him, his heart skipping a beat. The Crown Prince's expression was calm, and he did not do anything else. However, this calmness caused Huangfu Hao to suddenly feel a deep sense of unease. He suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. But why would the Crown Prince want to silence them? Unless the Crown Prince could kill all the servants in King Qin's residence, the Crown Prince would not be able to escape responsibility. Moreover, Huangfu Hao could not think of a reason why the Crown Prince would want to kill him. However, before he could hear the answer, he saw the Crown Prince's eyes flash. Huangfu Hao was shocked and instinctively dodged to the side, narrowly avoiding a silver sword light that came stabbing at him from behind. Chapter 780. They were the Crown Prince's personal guards. Huangfu Hao was shocked and afraid. He finally realized that something was wrong. The Crown Prince had brought his guards with him, but his guards were left halfway up the mountain. Huangfu Hao couldn't figure out why the Crown Prince wanted to kill him. That was why he fell into the trap so easily. He said angrily, "What are you doing?" The Crown Prince looked at him expressionlessly. "I'm sorry." Several guards flew towards Huangfu Hao. In his despair, Huangfu Hao shouted, "Fu Xiuyan, you harm me. The Qin Kingdom will not let this go." Fu Xiuyan. Fu Xiuyan was the Crown Prince's name. His voice came to an abrupt end. The sword light that passed through his chest was like a silver snake, emitting a dense white light. The blood that slowly seeped out, however, stuck to the thin ice on the ground. The Yifeng Pavilion's back was against the Grand Canyon. Huangfu Hao's final roar had been made with all his might. Hence, his roar continued to echo down the valley, layer after layer, like ripples on the bottom of the water. On the other end, the Crown Prince and his entourage, who were on their way to the Yifeng Pavilion, suddenly stopped. They were on the dark path down the mountain, and the echo did not seem to be very clear. The Crown Prince frowned and asked, "Did someone just call my name?" The guards looked at each other. They couldn't hear clearly. The Crown Prince thought for a moment and said, "I must have heard wrongly. In this world, other than the Empress, no one dared to call him by his full name. Moreover, there shouldn't be anyone in Yifeng Pavilion." The appointed time on the invitation was 6 in the morning. However, the Crown Prince had a habit of arriving early, so he went up the mountain at 7 in the morning. He should have been the first to arrive. As he thought about it, he felt that it was just a hallucination, but for some reason, the Crown Prince felt uneasy. He couldn't help but quicken his steps. When he arrived at Yifeng Pavilion, he saw a person sitting in the pavilion with his back facing him from afar. Looking at the back view, he knew it was Huangfu Hao. The crown prince was surprised. He didn't expect Huangfu Hao to arrive so early. He smiled and greeted him. I didn't expect Brother Huangfu to arrive so early. Before he could say morning, the crown prince's hand had just touched Huangfu Hao's shoulder when Huangfu Hao fell to the ground with a thud. The crown prince was startled and immediately reached out to pull Huangfu Hao. With this pull, Huangfu Hao's face was directly facing him. The crown prince cried out in alarm and immediately let go. Huangfu Hao's eyes were round and his mouth was wide open as if he was extremely angry and shocked. However, his clothes were cold and wet because the silver robes around his chest were already dyed red with large patches of blood. What's going on? The crown prince panicked. Huangfu Hao was dead? How was this possible? He did not have time to react to this matter when a large group of people suddenly rushed in from outside. They were all dressed as imperial bodyguards. Seeing Huangfu Hao lying on the ground, it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. They angrily shouted at the crown prince. "Audacious, you dare to plot against His Highness the Crown Prince. Hand over your life." Without saying another word, he pounced toward the crown prince. The crown prince had also brought his own imperial bodyguards. The imperial bodyguards naturally could not let the crown prince be harmed, so they fought with the imperial bodyguards. At this time, the crown prince also understood that these people who had drawn their blades against him were Huangfu Hao's imperial bodyguards. But where did Huangfu Hao's imperial bodyguards go? Why did they only rush out now? The crown prince still remembered to explain and shouted, "This prince has just arrived here. When I arrived here, Brother Huangfu had already been killed. This prince did not do it." One of the imperial bodyguard who seemed to be the leader said hatefully, "Nonsense. Just now, we were waiting for His Highness the Crown Prince's orders halfway up the mountain and heard His Highness personally shout that you were the one who harmed him. We were unable to arrive immediately. Now that we have the witness and the material evidence, how can you deny it?" After saying that, he raised his sword and rushed over. Chapter 781. As the crown prince was being protected by his own guards, he was dumbfounded. Huangfu Hao said that he was the one who harmed him. This was simply a joke. He had just arrived, and Huangfu Hao was already dead. Why would Huangfu Hao slander him? Wait. The crown prince's heart suddenly moved. Before he reached Yifeng Pavilion, he seemed to have heard someone calling his name. It was just that he was walking on the Yin Mountain and could not hear it clearly. Could it be that it was not an illusion and was real? But why would Huangfu Hao call out his name? The crown prince's heart was in a mess, but he still said, "Bin Gong just arrived here." Why would Bin Gong harm him? "Ming Chi Dog, you deceived our crown prince to come out and asked His Highness to leave us at the waist of the mountain in the invitation so that it would be convenient for you to do this. If this enmity is not avenged, the Qin country would have lived in vain." The crown prince was like being struck by lightning. The invitation to Huangfu Hao was personally written by him, so that this love-at-first-sight drama would be more natural and real. The crown prince invited Huangfu Hao to taste the incense, and coincidentally, Wang Bai found this incense by accident. Who knew that Wang Bai's new foreign was insensible and invited her own younger sister out to see the novelty. The four of them unintentionally gathered together, and the rest of the matter naturally took its course. But in the invitation, there was no mention of leaving one's guards at the waist of the mountain. A guard stood in front of the crown prince and said, "Your Highness, we cannot hold on any longer. The people here do not want to live. Your Highness better leave first." The crown prince looked up at the other party. Huangfu Hao was obviously dead and could not be revived. Those guards most likely knew that their master was dead, and even if they returned to the Qin country, they would be accused of not protecting the crown prince, and the Qin emperor would vent his anger on them. At the end, there was only death. They might as well push all the blame onto the crown prince, and now they were going to perish together with the crown prince. Their moves were ruthless, but the crown prince's guards still had to protect the crown prince, and were unable to resist the enemy. The crown prince was somewhat hesitant. If he were to leave, he would not be able to resolve all the matters properly, and it was as though he had tacitly agreed to this staying. But if he did not leave, looking at the menacing momentum of the other party, the crown prince did not know if he could return safely. He clenched his teeth and looked at Huang Fu Hao on the ground before hardening his heart. Go. No one outside the Yifeng pavilion was aware of what was happening. Shendong Ling and Wang Bai sat in the carriage. The carriage was still on the way up the mountain. There was still some distance to the foot of the mountain. Today, they were only here to be witnesses. It would be bad if they went too early. Moreover, the Shen mansion was far from Yifeng pavilion, and if Shen Miao did not go, it would be inconvenient for the crown prince and Huang Fu Hao to speak if they went earlier. So Wang Bai instructed the carriage to deliberately slow down. Shen Dongling nestled in Wang Bai's embrace and said with a smile, "My husband seems to be in a good mood today." Wang Bai hugged her. "Of course I'm in a good mood after marrying a beautiful woman." Thinking that after today, his position in the crown prince's heart would rise again, Wang Bai couldn't help but feel very pleased. Although the minister-counselor's residence was overflowing with wealth because of the illicit salt business, they were all secretly wealthy. They also had to be on guard at all times against being discovered and reported by people with ulterior motives, implicating the entire residence. People always had to look forward. In the past, Wang Bai's path had always been steady, but when he didn't lack money, power became somewhat important. He also wanted to be able to soar to the skies in one fell swoop. Wang Bai was the crown prince's person. Even though the crown prince had the orthodox title among the few princes, it was not outstanding. But now that the other princes were fighting for power, Emperor Wenhui would instead value the crown prince more, as he felt that the crown prince was easier to grasp. Emperor Wenhui had the heart to support the crown prince, and the crown prince gradually changed his style of doing things in the past, causing the people who followed the crown prince to gradually become ambitious. In addition, Wang Bai glanced at the beautiful woman in his embrace. After marrying Shan Dongling, he increasingly felt that even though he was steady, it was not easy to get ahead. What was the point of enduring for decades, and one would be old? Shen Dongling, however, suited his taste, and seemed to be able to encourage him to do things that he dared not think of in the past. Wang Bai's heart was rejoicing. Now, as long as Shen Miao's matter was successful, the crown prince would have more confidence in inheriting the emperor's throne. When one person achieves Tao, his chickens and dogs will also ascend to heaven. Just as he was thinking, the carriage suddenly stopped. Wang Bai lifted the curtain and asked, "What is the matter?" A guard ran over. Wang Bai recognized him, as he was the person beside the crown prince. The crown prince had sent this person to pass a few words to Wang Bai, so Wang Bai was considered familiar with him. But at this moment, that person's expression was not good, and not only that, his clothes were somewhat disheveled. He waved his hands at Wang Bai and said, "Lord Wang, something happened." Shen Dongling was listening in the carriage. Chapter 782. Things seemed to have changed beyond recognition overnight. The limitless glory that he had originally envisioned had turned into countless troubles in just a moment's time. Wang Bai and Shen Dongling never thought that Huang Fu Hao would actually be killed by the crown prince. The two of them had no idea what had happened. The crown prince's bodyguard had been trying his best to emphasize that the crown prince had not done anything to Huang Fu Hao. By the time the crown prince reached the Yifeng pavilion, Huang Fu Hao was already dead. But Huang Fu Hao's guards seemed to believe it without a doubt. The misunderstanding had already been created, not to mention it was a bloody misunderstanding. Therefore, what followed was a shocking accusation. Shen Dongling tried her best to maintain a calm expression on her face as she comforted Wang Bai. There must be some misunderstanding. As long as the misunderstanding is resolved, everything will be fine. However, her heart was sinking into the abyss. From an outsider's point of view, it was Wang Bai who found the good incense and gave it to the crown prince, and the crown prince used the flower to present the Buddha to Huang Fu Hao, who invited Huang Fu Hao to taste the incense together. Wang Bai was the source of the disaster. Even if this matter had nothing to do with Wang Bai, It was impossible for Wang Bai to leave unscathed due to the fury of the imperial family. Furthermore, even if the crown prince was lucky enough to prove his innocence in the end, Wang Bai was the one who came up with the plan to taste the incense. Because of Wang Bai's plan, Huang Fu Hao was dead, and the Qin kingdom would not let the matter rest. The crown prince's ally was also dead, so how could the crown prince not vent his anger on Wang Bai? Therefore, looking left and right, Wang Bai, the scapegoat, could not escape. Wang Bai clearly thought of this too, his expression ugly to the extreme. In the end, he was more composed than Shun Dongling and only said, "Let's go back first and visit the crown prince's residence to find out what exactly happened. How did Huang Fu Hao die just like that? Who killed him? Why did Huang Fu Hao call out the crown prince's name again?" The intricacies of this matter were truly incomprehensible. No matter what, he had to figure out what was going on first before he could come up with a countermeasure. The coachman turned the horse around and ran in the direction of the city. Shun Dongling seemed to suddenly think of something and asked, "Why haven't I seen Fifth Sister?" Wang Bai was taken aback. One must know that this plan was used by the crown prince because of Shun Miao. This was because Shun Dongling had calculated the time and arrived at Yifeng Pavilion at about the same time as Shun Miao. This way, they could chat casually and show their deep sisterhood. They stopped here for a while, and it was reasonable to say that Shun Miao and the rest should also be here. But on the mountain road in the outskirts, one could see clearly in front of them, and there were no other carriages ahead or behind. Why did Shun Miao not come? Wang Bai only knew that Shun Miao was Shun Dongling's third household's Tang younger sister, and because Shun Xian held great power in his hands, he did not know anything about Shun Miao's character. Shun Dongling, however, had seen the methods that Shun Miao used to deal with the second and third household, and her heart sank. If Shun Miao did not come, how could it be such a coincidence? Could it be that Shun Miao had long known that something would happen today? There was no one in the world who had the ability to predict the future. Could it be that this matter was related to Shun Miao? No matter how powerful she was, how could she kill the crown prince of the Qin kingdom so easily? When Wang Bai heard Shun Dongling's words, he misunderstood Shun Dongling's meaning and said, "That's right. If fifth Xinjiang lady was also here, things would most likely be smoother." Wang Bai thought that with one more person, he would be able to share more of the blame. If Shun Miao was here, on account of Shen Xian, Emperor Wen Hui would not make things too difficult for him, but if he were to punish him alone, it would appear to be biased. In order to show fairness, Shun Miao's presence would save Wang by a lot of things. He said, "Let us return to the residence first. Perhaps fifth Xinjiang lady has already returned. Let's take a look at the crown prince's side first." Chapter 783. Shun Dongling nodded her head but smiled bitterly in her heart. She did not know why, but she felt that Shun Miao would not have already returned, and most likely Shun Miao did not intend to come to Yifeng Pavilion from the start. Shun Miao. This opponent was more terrifying than she thought. At the other end, on the streets, Luo Tan was sitting in the horse carriage and wiped the sweat on her forehead. What to do now? One delay, and it has been delayed for so long. If one rush to Yifeng Pavilion now, one fear that it is already too late. Just now, when their Shun family's horse carriage was traveling in a bustling area of the city, they accidentally bumped into an old woman. That old woman immediately fainted. The Shen family was not a small family in the Ding capital, and Shen Xian was a respected hero, so naturally one had to cherish one's feathers. Shun Miao and Luo Tan did not have any reason to leave the old woman alone. They instructed the guards to send the old woman to the nearest medical hall and personally watched the doctor take the old woman's pulse and said that she was fine until the old woman woke up. Their action naturally won the approval of many commoners, as they felt that young ladies from the general residence did not have any arrogance and instead were considerate of the commoners, which was a rare character. It was true that they had earned praises, but it also delayed a lot of time. If they were to rush to Yifeng Pavilion now, it would be noon by the time they arrived. Shun Miao pondered for a moment before saying, "Not going." Huh? Luo Tan was still thinking about how to solve this problem when she heard Shun Miao say that, and could not help but be surprised. Why not going? Doesn't Biao youngest sister hate people who go back on their words? Shun Miao smiled. One must pay attention to the time and place when tasting the incense. The best time in Yifeng Pavilion is in the morning when the air is the freshest, and one would naturally feel refreshed when tasting the incense at noon or in the afternoon. The heaven and earth are chaotic, and it is not easy to taste the fragrance. One cannot let others wait for us. This would not be beautiful. She stretched out her hand to call Mo Qing over and let him send a messenger pigeon to Yifeng Pavilion. She and Luo Tan would not be able to go due to the delay. Even though Luo Tan had some regrets, she originally did not have any interest in tasting the incense. It was rare for her to come out for a stroll, so she wanted to pull Shun Miao along. Shun Miao saw that it was still early, and with Qi and the rest of the guards by her side, there was no harm in strolling around, so she agreed. Who knew that Luo Tan was in high spirits, and after this stroll, it was already close to evening when they returned to the Shun residence. Their carriage had just arrived at the entrance of the mansion when a manservant in front of the door smiled and said, "It's good that Miss has returned. Madam and Master have just returned as well. Just in time for dinner." Luo Tan smiled as she took Shun Miao's hand and stepped through the door. Who knew that when they entered the main hall, Luo Shuiyin was talking to Shun Exen, and when she saw Shun Miao and Luo Tan returning, she was surprised for a moment before giving a big sigh of relief. "Jiao Jiao, Tenor, where did you all go?" "Today, Lady Wang of the Minister Counselor's residence invited us to Yifeng Pavilion to taste some incense. On the way there, the carriage collided with an old woman. My cousin and I were busy taking care of the old woman and were delayed. Hence, we decided to excuse ourselves and not go. My cousin and I were just strolling around." "Father, Mother, did something happen?" Shun Miao said that Shun Dongling was the Lady Wang of the Minister Counselor's residence, and it was obvious that she was deliberately drawing a clear line with Shun Dongling. Luo Shuiyin did not notice this and only took a deep breath. "It scared me to death. Today the Crown Prince of Qin was assassinated at Yifeng Pavilion, and all the related people were arrested and sent to the prison for interrogation. That Wang Bai said that you were also present, but no one saw it. Your father and I rushed back, and when we saw that you were not around, we thought that something happened." Chapter 784. Luo Tan was surprised for a moment. "Assassinated?" she said. "Who would have such guts to dare to assassinate the Crown Prince of the Qin country in broad daylight? Are the martial arts of the Crown Prince of the Qin country's guards that bad? How could they not even protect their master's life?" Different from Luo Tan's surprised face, Shun Miao was very calm as she said, "Do not worry. Biao older sister and I did not go to Yifeng Pavilion. Today when we collided with that old woman, many commoners on the streets saw it, and to avoid trouble, we even reported our names. Those commoners can testify for us that we were busy taking care of that old woman, so how would we have the time to go to Yifeng Pavilion? It would not be fake under the watchful eyes of everyone, and Shun Miao did not know how to split herself, so how could she appear at Yifeng Pavilion when she was in the marketplace?" Shun Exen snorted coldly, and there was some anger in his expression. "Wang Bai has such big guts to dare to splash dirty water on my Shin family. It seems that the Wang family wants to drag us into the water." Luo Shuiyin also understood and said hatefully, "Shin Dongling is still our relative, but one did not think that she would have such vicious thoughts. How is it reasonable to scheme against one's own family?" Shin Miao sneered. "In the second and third household of the Shun family, when was there anyone who treated us sincerely?" Luo Shuiyin and Shun Xin were silent. Luo Tan felt that the atmosphere was somewhat heavy and smiled as she interrupted. "Speaking of which, it is fortunate that Biao younger sister and I had good luck today. If it was not that we collided with that old woman, one feared that we would really go to Yifeng Pavilion to taste the incense. Since Huangfu Hao was attacked by an assassin, and even his guards were not saved, the assassin's martial arts must be very high. If Biao younger sister and I were to go, we might also be implicated. Speaking of which, we should thank that old woman." Shun Miao laughed in spite of herself, and was about to say something when she heard Luo Tan muttering, "But previously in the invitation that was given to us, There was no mention of the crown prince of the Qin country going to taste the incense. Why did the crown prince of the Qin country go to taste the incense? Was there anyone else there? If there was, were there any casualties? Before anyone could answer Luo Tan's questions, one saw two travel-worn people walking in. It was Shun Xiao and Luo Ling. Luo Tan turned around and happened to bump into them. She couldn't help but exclaim, "Cousin Xiao, brother Ling, what's wrong?" Shun Xiao's and Luo Ling's clothes were somewhat disheveled, and not only that, there were some bloodstains on their faces, making them look extremely wretched. Luo Shuiyin and Shen Xian were also shocked. Luo Shuiyin quickly stepped forward and anxiously looked at the two of them. What happened? Shen Xiao quickly explained, "Don't worry, it's not my blood, it's someone else's." Only then did Luo Shuiyin relax. But before she could relax, she heard Luo Tan ask, "Cousin Xiao, are you and Brother Ling going to catch the assassin who tried to assassinate the Crown Prince of Qin today? Are those assassins very powerful and difficult to deal with? You guys don't look like you have it easy." Shen Xian frowned and asked, "Shen Xiao, is it like this?" Shen Xiao and Luo Ling looked at each other, and both of their gazes were somewhat strange. After a moment, Shen Xiao let all the servants in the main hall leave and looked at Luo Tan and Shun Miao thoughtfully. Shun Miao smiled. "Me and older Biao's sister will not say it out. Eldest brother can just say whatever it is." Luo Tan quickly raised her hands to indicate that she would not reveal anything at all. Seeing Shun Xiao's serious look, Shun Xian and Luo Shuiyin were somewhat suspicious. Luo Ling nodded his head to Shun Xiao, and Shun Xiao sighed before speaking. Today, the troops and horses of the Ministry of War's garrison had gone to stop people, but it was not the assassins who tried to assassinate Huangfu Hao, but Huangfu Hao's guards. Guards? Luo Shuiyin frowned. Could it be that they want an explanation from Ming Qi and have already made a big fuss? Luo Shuiyin did not have any good impression of the Qin people. One did not know if it was because the Qin country was established for the shortest period of time among the three countries and did not have much history. From the imperial family to the commoners, everyone had an arrogant look. Even if the Qin country's power was slightly stronger than Ming Qi, but the arrogance that they displayed in front of Ming Qi was really an eyesore. Chapter 785. That is also not the case. Shen Xiao hesitated for a moment before saying, "Huangfu Hao's guard said that the one who assassinated Huangfu Hao was the crown prince, and now they are heading to the Eastern Palace to kill the crown prince to avenge Huangfu Hao." The crown prince killed Huangfu Hao? Shen Xian suddenly stood up. Impossible. Not to mention the crown prince's thin and weak body. Now that the Ming Qi was trying to build a relationship with the Qin country to deal with the Great Liang, how could they do such a self-destructive thing? To kill Huangfu Hao would only provoke the Qin country's rage, and not to mention the collapse of the alliance. It would also add one more enemy. There was no doubt that it was one disaster after another. The crown prince was not a fool, so why would he do such a thankless thing? I also thought that it was impossible. Shen Xiao was somewhat puzzled, but those guards said that they heard Huangfu Hao shouting the crown prince's name, and loudly said that the crown prince was the murderer. Since they were Huangfu Hao's guards, there was no reason for them to frame others for letting the real murderer go. Luo Shuiyin asked, "Huangfu Hao's guard were not with Huangfu Hao? Why did they say that they heard it?" This is where the doubt lies. Luo Ling continued. According to Huangfu Hao's guards, it was the crown prince who sent the invitation to Huangfu Hao to taste the incense. Huangfu Hao's guards recalled that the crown prince said that he had something important to discuss with Huangfu Hao and wanted Huangfu Hao's guards to stay at the mountainside and let Huangfu Hao go alone. But the crown prince said that he did not mention it in the invitation that he sent to Huangfu Hao. The officials were ordered to search for the crown prince's invitation, but no one knew where the invitation was thrown by Huangfu Hao. Now that the dead can no longer testify, both sides are sticking to their own version of events. It is very worrying. Luo Tan muttered. The crown prince asked Huangfu Hao to taste the incense. But why was the invitation that Wang Foren gave to me and Biao's youngest sister not mention the two of them? Everyone in the room was startled. They only paid attention to the bad account between the crown prince and Huang Fu Hao, but Shen Miao's end was neglected. At this moment, when Luo Ten mentioned it, they remembered. Yes, the crown prince and Huang Fu Hao were to taste the incense. So why did they bring Shen Miao and Luo Tan along? There was no need to talk about Luo Tan, as she had no relation with the people in the Ding capital, but Shen Miao was Shen Xian's daughter. When Shen Dongling sent the invitation, it was impossible that she did not know that the crown prince and Huang Fu would come. Shen Miao forgot, or was it? If he did it on purpose, why would he do it on purpose? Was he planning something? Luo Ling said no. How? Luo Shuiyin said, no, I have to ask Shen Dongling clearly. Mother, Shen Xiu stopped her. Shen Dongling and Wang Bai are already in prison, and one cannot rush to see them at this time. Otherwise, it would not be good if one were to be thought to have any relationship with her. 2 crown princes went to taste the incense, and one died, and the other inexplicably became the murderer. When Emperor Wenhui knew about it, he was so angry that he almost fell down. What was this? On one hand, it was to temporarily quell the anger of the Qin country, and to capture a few people to let them see that Ming Qi was handling matters impartially. On the other hand, Emperor Wenhui had nowhere to vent his anger on. Since it was Wang Bai and his wife who suggested to taste the incense, it was equivalent to being the initiator. The anger of the Son of Heaven would never be explained. Wang Bai was still sitting in a happy dream, but it was ruthlessly shattered. Not only that, no one dared to say if he could keep his life this time. Everyone had different expressions, but only Shen Miao was as calm as usual. She listened to all these things as if it had nothing to do with her. Of course, it was indeed not related. She said, "This has nothing to do with us. Just wait and see how the outside handles it." Chapter 786. Shen Xiu noticed Shen Miao's expression and asked, "Younger sister, why are you not surprised that Huang Fu Hao was assassinated, and also not surprised that it was the crown prince who killed Huang Fu Hao?" Shen Miao gently smiled. What is there to be surprised about? Since it was like what those people said, the crown prince and Huang Fu Hao had a private matter to discuss. And in the process of the discussion, if there was no consensus or any intense disagreement, it was highly possible that the crown prince would kill an impulse. It is not that there were no such cases in the Ming Qi before, so why make a fuss over nothing? Shen Xiu was speechless. Shen Miao's words made everyone in the room unable to remain calm. What Shen Miao said was true, but what kind of disagreement would be so intense that one would kill, not to mention that the other party was the crown prince of a country? Even if Emperor Wenhui was so angry that he lost his rationality, it was not likely that he would be so straightforward to silence the witness. Shen Xian and Luo Shuiyin frowned. Shen Miao did not need to think so much, but they were officials in the court, and every small action in the court could possibly affect their future life. Moreover, this time, Huang Fu Hao died in the Ming Qi, and the crime would fall on the crown prince of the Ming Qi. One think that those guards had already sent people back to pass the message that after the emperor of the Qin country knew that a pair of children died in the Ming Qi, who would bear the thunderous rage, and it would be difficult for the Ming Qi and the Qin country to form an alliance to recover. At this time, it was unknown what the Great Liang would do. This night, because of this sudden matter, even the atmosphere in the Shen mansion was solemn. However, it was not because they sympathized with Huang Fu Hao or the crown prince, but because they were worried about the possible changes in the future. When Xie Jingxing came over to look for Shen Miao was standing in front of the window in a daze. Huang Fu Hao died just like that, and in the previous lifetime, Huang Fu Hao and Princess Ming and became a nightmare that she could not get rid of for the 5 years that she went to the Qin country as a hostage. Princess Ming and was arrogant and despotic, but Huang Fu Hao liked to lead everyone to torture him. He was the crown prince of the Qin country, and once Huang Fu Hao tortured someone, others would follow suit. Actually, speaking of which, there was no enmity between Shen Miao, Huang Fu Hao, and Princess Mingyan, but because of such malicious insults, it finally accumulated resentment. Different from others, Shun Miao did not think of letting Huangfu Hao and Princess Ming and pay with their lives, because they were not the ones who harmed the Shun family the most in the previous lifetime. At most, these people would kick her when she was down for a period of time. If it was not that they schemed against her in this lifetime, Shun Miao would not even bother about these two people. Now that the person was gone, Shun Miao was somewhat at a loss. Since his rebirth, he had always adhered to the path of vengeance and to protect the Shun family from repeating the mistakes of his previous life. But as long as the Fu family was still alive, they would never let the Shun family off. Her enemies were very strong from the start, and it was not enough to just have the heart to stake everything on one throw. Shun Miao would sometimes doubt if she could walk to the end. The figure that came down from a tree waved his hands in front of Shun Miao. Shun Miao recovered her senses, and what entered her eyes was Xie Jingxing's playful smile. He said, "Thinking of me to such an extent?" Shun Miao wanted to close the window with a pa sound, but Xie Jingxing caught it quickly and took the opportunity to jump into the room. With one hand on Shun Miao's shoulder, he did not let her move, and the other hand closed the window. "Be careful not to freeze, silly." Song Yang, who was standing at the corner of the wall outside, Shun Miao pulled Xie Jingxing's hand away and sat down at the table in the room before asking, "How is the handling?" "No problem." Xie Jingxing sat down and indicated Shun Miao to pour tea for him. Shun Miao held her breath as she poured tea for him and reluctantly pushed the teacup over and asked, "Are you sure that the Qin country's people would not find out?" Chapter 787. "I can't." Xie Jingxing smiled. "Not everyone is as smart as you and I." Shun Miao rolled her eyes when he praised others, but he did not forget to praise her as well. Looking at the purple-clothed young man who was leisurely drinking tea, his heart was slightly stirred. Today's matter was planned by her and Xie Jingxing. There were many talented people under Xie Jingxing. There were those who could disguise themselves well. There were also those who were outstanding in imitating other people's vocalizations, and there were even some who could write exactly the same words with just one look. Huangfu Hao and Fu Xiao Yin only changed the invitation to Huangfu Hao, and even the time was changed. Huangfu Hao and Fu Xiao Yin ascended the mountain one after the other. After ascending the mountain, Xie Jingxing's men would disguise themselves as the crown prince, and the bodyguard beside the crown prince would lower his head and speak with the crown prince's tone. Even though Huangfu Hao and the crown prince were familiar with each other, it wasn't to the point of being completely devoted to each other. They hadn't stuck together since they were young, so it was impossible for him to realize that the person opposite him had already substituted for the peach. What followed was a series of misunderstandings. From an outsider's point of view, the crown prince had killed Huangfu Hao. Regardless of the reason, regardless of the misunderstanding, this was an unchangeable fact. The Qin country would not take this lying down. Not to mention an alliance. One feared that they would become enemies with the Ming Qi. Not to mention that the alliance was broken. In order to appease the anger of the Qin emperor, Emperor Wenhui finally sacrificed others, and it was inevitable that the crown prince would be sacrificed. "Why are you so sure that the emperor will sacrifice the crown prince?" Xie Jingxing raised his eyebrows and asked. "That is his own son." Shun Miao gently smiled. "Do you remember my second shoe?" "I remember. Back then, Shen Yuan was also his biological son. When Shen Yuan got into trouble, he was busy trying to clear his name. The emperor was also an ordinary person, and the kinship of the royal family was even more faint. For the sake of the righteousness of the world, what did it matter to put righteousness before family? Even if one knew that the crown prince was wrongly accused, the emperor would only swallow this bitter fruit. Shun Miao said it with ridicule, but there was a faint killing intent in the corner of her eyes. Xie Jingxing stared at her thoughtfully. Shun Miao always had a deep-rooted hatred towards the Fu family. Even if she tried her best to hide it, there would always be a moment when she couldn't hide it. These moments were captured by Xie Jingxing. Although he was suspicious, he did not interrogate. He joked, "You seem to understand the royal family very well. You speak as if you have personally experienced it." Shun Miao's eyes drooped. Wasn't it because she had personally experienced it? After marrying to Fu Xiu-yi fought for the throne, and many of his brothers died. Out of the 9 princes, some were dead, some were crippled, and some were missing. Those who barely managed to keep their lives were finally removed by some groundless charges after Fu Xiu-yi ascended to the throne. It was the nature of the Fu family to not leave any loose ends. Even between Fu Xiu-yi and Emperor Wenhui, was it not a fight and intrigue? Emperor Wenhui was wary of his son usurping the throne, and Fu Xiu-yi hoped for his father's early death. There was also consort Su Xian, consort Dong Shu, the Empress. In the palace, whoever cared about family was a fool. It was a pity that she didn't understand in her previous life. She always thought that people would always have a heart. But he had forgotten that if Fu Xiu-yi could lay his hands on his own brother and father, then naturally he could lay his hands on his own son. When Shun Miao was in the palace, the love and hate that she had when she was a young girl, at the end, had almost disappeared. The remaining feelings towards Fu Xiu-yi were all built on the fact that he was Wan Yu and Fu Ming's father. Shun Miao thought that there was no father that would not love his own children. However, Fu Xiu-yi finally sent his own daughter to the Xiongnu for marriage and forced his own son to a dead end. This debt, she would definitely get it back personally. Seeing the changes in Shun Miao's eyes and the traces of pain, Xie Jingxing's brows wrinkled. He did not know where did he touch Shun Miao's sore spot. He hesitated for a moment and slowed down his voice. If you have any difficulties, you can tell me and I will solve it for you. Shun Miao looked up at him. Speak as if you can do it. But her heart was like a mirror that Xie Jingxing could indeed do it. Killing 2 crown princes, he said he would kill them. The crown prince and Emperor Wenhui obviously knew that they were being schemed against, but did not even have the chance to refute. Only Xie Jingxing would be able to do such a choking and helpless method. He had great guts and ability that reached the heavens, but he was so cunning that one would not be able to grab hold of his weakness, as if there was nothing in this world that he could not do. It would be good if she met him in her previous life. Shun Miao's heart suddenly came up with such a thought, but she only said, if you were to change the face of the country, would you be able to do it? When the purple-clad youth who was holding the jade teacup heard it, he smiled. His appearance was handsome and beautiful. The crabapple branches were filled with the feeling of spring, and the nobility and elegance were revealed from his bones. Even though his gaze was as sharp as a knife, his tone was slightly teasing. It is only a toppling of the imperial power. If you want it, it is all yours. Chapter 788. This little movement of Ming-Chi was ultimately not hidden from the people of the world. Huangfu Hao died in the crown prince's hands, and one did not know how it started to spread in the marketplace. Emperor Wenhui had the intention to put Huangfu Hao's guards under house arrest, but now the situation had become out of hand, and if it was not controlled, one feared that there would be chaos. But how would the people in the residence of Prince Qin sit still and await death? When the news reached the ears of the Qin country's emperor, in just a short few days, there were people who rushed back to send a message, swearing to Emperor Wenhui to give an explanation, or else they would send troops to flatten Ming-Chi. If it was the previous Qin country, Ming-Chi would naturally be able to contend with it, but now there was the great Liang with unknown ambitions lurking at the side like a tiger eyeing its prey. If there was another Qin country, then Ming-Chi would really be finished. With conclusive evidence, Emperor Wenhui was helpless and could only lock the crown prince in prison, even though he specially let people take care of him. But at the end it was still a step to sacrifice the rook to protect the general. So the older Emperor Wenhui got, the decisiveness he had when he was younger was finally worn away. Not to mention how this method would make other sons think. Even if the officials saw it, they would feel bitterly disappointed. In order to protect himself, even though he knew that the crown prince's assassination of Huangfu Hao was fishy, he still locked the crown prince in prison. In fact, one could not blame Emperor Wenhui. The reason why he locked the crown prince in prison, other than to show an attitude to the Qin country's emperor and to temporarily quell the emperor's anger, was for the sake of the crown prince's safety. Those Huangfu Hao's guards were eyeing the crown prince like a tiger eyeing its prey and wholeheartedly wanted to take revenge for Huangfu Hao. If the crown prince was not careful one day, it was not impossible that he would die in the hands of those guards. Now that the crown prince was a prisoner and there were so many people guarding the prison, there would not be any incidents. Unfortunately, no one understood Emperor Wen Hui's thoughts, and because of his actions, even the Empress could not sit still. When the Empress entered the Yang Exan Palace, she angrily questioned, "Your Majesty obviously know that the crown prince was wronged, so why did you lock him up? Your Majesty's actions, did you not think about how the officials would look at you in the future?" Emperor Wen Hui frowned. He did not like the feeling of being questioned and said, "Je have my own ideas." Emperor Wen Hui still had some feelings for the Empress, as the Empress was his legal wife. When the late Emperor was still alive, the fight for the throne was as fierce as it was now. If it was not for the support of the Empress maiden family, Emperor Wen Hui would not have reached this step today. Now that the power of the Empress maiden family had been deliberately taken away by Emperor Wen Hui, it was not possible for the external relatives to monopolize power. Thus, Emperor Wen Hui was willing to give some face to the Empress. Moreover, the Empress was the crown prince's birth mother. In private, the Empress was indeed a good Empress. She was not jealous and managed the inner palace well. "I beg your Majesty to retract your order," the Empress said. "The crown prince will have to face the court officials in the future. Your Majesty's actions will cause the people to misunderstand." If it was in the past, the Empress would never refute Emperor Wen Hui's decisions, but as a mother, she was always exceptionally sensitive towards her son's matters. The Empress would not allow the crown prince's future to have any mistakes. Not even a drop of dirty water could be stained. Moreover, this time, it was not an ordinary mistake. Once the crime of murdering the crown prince of the Qin country was proven, one feared that it would be difficult for Fu Xiaoyan to keep his life. Even though the Empress did not interfere in the court's affairs, it did not mean that she knew nothing about the court's affairs. Once there were signs of danger, she would definitely nip it in the bud. Emperor Wen Hui was badly battered by this matter for the past few days, and his heart was extremely gloomy. Unfortunately, the Empress came at this time, so he said impatiently, "Je do not need you to tell me what to do." Chapter 789. The Empress' heart jumped. After being husband and wife with Emperor Wen Hui for so many years, she naturally knew what kind of temperament Emperor Wen Hui had. She immediately relaxed her expression and changed her questioning look as she softly said, "This concubine knows that your Majesty's heart is troubled." Just now this concubine was impulsive. This concubine is also worried about the crown prince. Remember that when the crown prince was young, the grand tutor could not teach him, and it was your Majesty who personally taught the crown prince. In the crown prince's heart, your Majesty is the wisest. Now, this concubine and your Majesty understand that this matter has nothing to do with the crown prince. The crown prince's temperament is gentle and honest. So how would he kill someone? Even if he were to kill someone, he would not be so stupid as to be an assassin in broad daylight. Your Majesty, the crown prince is innocent. You are the crown prince's father. Could it be that you want to watch the crown prince bear the infamy because of a groundless accusation? These conciliatory words had some effect, as Emperor Wen Hui's expression also eased up. Among the 9 princes, the one that Emperor Wen Hui wanted to support the most was the crown prince, so naturally he was not willing for the crown prince to die here. Just as he was about to speak, he heard a palace maid reporting from outside. "Your Majesty, Consort Xian has arrived." The Empress' expression was as usual, but the hands in her sleeves were clenched tightly. Among the concubines in the palace, Consort Su Xian was the most arrogant, as she had given birth to 2 princes, Prince Zhou and Prince Jing. Normally, she was pampered and had a beautiful appearance. Even though she acted arrogantly, she held Emperor Wen Hui's heart tightly. And the Empress was not ignorant of the ambitions of the 2 brothers, Prince Zhou and Prince Jing. Consort Su Xian naturally hoped that her sons would be able to sit in that position. So once something happened to the crown prince, Consort Su Xian would not let go of this opportunity to throw stones down the well. One saw Consort Su Xian gracefully walking in. Even though she had given birth to 2 sons, Consort Su Xian's appearance did not show any signs of aging. One heard that she used goat's milk to bathe daily, and her skin was smooth and firm. Compared to the immaturity of a young female, she had the mature charm of a married woman. There were 3,000 beauties in the palace, and Consort Su Xian's appearance indeed made others envious. It was no wonder that Emperor Wenhui knew that Consort Su Xian was arrogant and domineering, but still pampered her. When Consort Su Xian came in, she greeted Emperor Wenhui and the Empress. She then smiled and said, "Your Majesty has been in a bad mood recently, so I had the pastry chef make some purple snowbird's nest for your Majesty to taste. I didn't expect you to be here too." The Empress smiled faintly and did not want to speak more with her. But how could Consort Xian let go of this opportunity? She looked at the Empress and said, "Sister, you didn't come to His Majesty today because of the Crown Prince, did you?" Emperor Wenhui did not say anything when the Empress raised her eyebrows and said angrily, "Younger sister is also meddling too much." Consort Su Xian covered her mouth and laughed. She looked at the silent Emperor Wenhui and then looked at the Empress before speaking unhurriedly. Originally, younger sister should not speak about these matters. But His Majesty is already worried about this. Why doesn't elder sister understand His Majesty and disturb His Majesty at this critical moment? As she had the palace servant put down the basket in her hand, she said, "The matter of the Crown Prince is not only related to one person's life. The Crown Prince of the Qin Kingdom died here for no reason." On that day, only the Crown Prince and the Crown Prince of the Qin Kingdom were present. Younger sister naturally believes that the Crown Prince would not do such a crazy thing. Can you show evidence? If we can't produce evidence, how can we convince the public? Moreover, the Qin country's people are watching so closely. If His Majesty heard older sister's words and released the Crown Prince, one do not know how big of a wave would be set off at the Qin country's end. Older sister cannot only think of herself and the Crown Prince, but also think of the common people. Consort Su Xian was considerate, but it made the Empress face change. "Shut up," the Empress said angrily. Consort Su Xian pretended to be frightened and retreated a little before looking at Emperor Wenhui with grievance. "Your Majesty, this consort has good intentions to persuade older sister, but older sister does not appreciate it. This consort is really wrong to death." Chapter 790. Emperor Wenhui's head swelled up, and no one wanted to see it at this moment. How would he not know that Consort Su Xian's word was sow discord and not let the Crown Prince feel better? But Emperor Wenhui had no way to deny that what Consort Su Xian said was the truth. The matter of the Crown Prince is not only related to the Crown Prince, but also the attitude of the Qin Kingdom. This time Ming Qi could not tolerate any mistakes. If this matter was not handled well, no one could say what kind of disaster it would bring to Ming Qi in the future. Thinking of this, Emperor Wenhui felt annoyed when he thought of the Crown Prince and became impatient with the Empress. He said to the Empress and Consort Su Xian, "Withdraw. Zhen wants to be alone." The Empress waited with great difficulty for Emperor Wenhui to loosen his mouth, but did not want to be disturbed by Consort Su Xian, and all the previous efforts would be wasted. Her heart was not reconciled, but before she could speak, Consort Su Xian spoke first. "Since your Majesty is not willing to be disturbed, then these officials and concubines will withdraw first. Your Majesty, please take care of your dragon body. Don't be too distressed because of this." Emperor Wenhui waved his hands without raising his head. No matter how unwilling the Empress was, she could only leave with Consort Su Xian. After leaving Yangxin Palace Hall, the Empress stopped and looked at Consort Su Xian with a sneer. "I know what you are thinking in your heart. However, your son will never be able to replace my son." Consort Su Xianfei smiled and said, "Sister's words are too polite. The Crown Prince was a noble person, and his younger sister wished him well with all her heart. They are brothers who respect each other. There's no need to talk about replacing each other." She giggled again, enjoying the Empress' seemingly irritated expression, and said, "The one Mimi has always wanted to replace is Jie." Finishing, she stroked a pearl flower by the side of her hair and walked away alluringly. Only the Empress was left standing on the spot, gritting her teeth in anger. The Empress and consort Su Xian entered Yangxin Palace one after another, and the news quickly spread to the ears of others. Consort Dong Shu sat on the couch and listened to the maid playing the qin. What he played were mountains and rivers, gurgling springs, and towering mountains. It was an excellent scene. She didn't like to compete with outsiders and believed in Buddhism. When she didn't go to the temple, she would stay in her side chamber to do embroidery and listen to music. She didn't look like a concubine, but more like an outsider. Out of the 4 concubines, she was the most neglected one. It made people wonder how she managed to become one of the 4 concubines. And to her right was a man wearing a jade-colored brocade robe. He had a faint smile on his face as he tilted his head to listen, as if he had been immersed in the zither music for a long time. At the end of the song, the maid hugged the zither and thanked the favor. Consort Dong Shu waved her hand, and her personal palace maid brought the reward and sent the maid away. Everyone in the side chamber retreated out. Fu Xiu smiled. Fu Fei's mood today is exceptionally happy. The Empress could not sit still. Consort Dong Shu smiled. She personally went to Yangxian Palace to plead for the crown prince, and Consort Xian followed. Now that Consort Xian and the Empress are about to shed all pretense of cordiality, it is naturally worth celebrating. Fu Xiu laughed along. The crown prince is in dire straits, and Consort Xian naturally would not let go of this opportunity. If Prince Zhou and Prince Jing want to replace the crown prince, Consort Xian will definitely help in the inner palace. Unfortunately, it is not a good idea. Consort Dong Shu picked up the tea and took a sip. But if the sandpiper and clam do not fight, how can the fisherman benefit? Both mother and son laughed at the same time. Fu Xiuyi's facial features were more similar to Consort Dong Shu's. Usually he looked cold, but when he laughed, it was soft and gentle, making one unable to be wary at all. Consort Dong Shu said, "How have you been recently?" Fu Xiu smiled, discovered some interesting secrets, and is currently investigating. One think that there will be a result in a short while. Consort Dong Shu looked at him reproachfully. "You have always had your own ideas, so I will not worry about these matters. Speaking of which, it is time for you to get married. You are not young, and if you drag on, it would be inevitable that others would use you as a raft. Consort Xian and the rest can't wait for you to marry a powerless female as a Wang Fei." As Consort Dong Shu spoke, she sighed and said, "Originally that Shun Miao was in love with you, and one thought that if she continued to be in love with you and finally let her enter the door, you would have the help of the Shen family. One did not think that the affairs of the world are fickle. Not to mention that she changed her temperament. Even now, you would not be able to accept the marriage of the Shen family." Chapter 791. Fu Xiu smiled. "Even though I cannot take it, no one in Ming Qi can take it. Other than the crown prince, anyone else who is tied to the Shun family would arouse imperial father suspicion. Originally, the crown prince's victory was in the bag, but one did not think that there would be an accident midway. Most likely the heavens are on our side." He did not have the slightest regret and said, "Those powerful officials in Ming Qi would not marry into the Shen family. Even though the Shun family has a big business, Shen Miao may not be able to marry well." Consort Dong Shu sighed. "Correct." Finishing, she thought of something, but this time the crown prince stumbled miserably. Huang Fuhao's matter would definitely not be easy. "Do you think that this was done by the Prince Zhou and Prince Jing brothers, or Prince Li?" Fu Xiu did not form cliques because he did not trust his own brothers and had always been one to rise. Originally, Prince Zhou's faction and Prince Li's faction fought fiercely, and now Emperor Wen Hui had the intention to support the crown prince, and even had the intention to let the crown prince marry into the Shen family. Thus Prince Zhou and Prince Li could not help but be anxious. Who knew that the crown prince would suddenly appear halfway? The crown prince had become their enemy, and naturally, they would spare no effort to get rid of him. This time the crown prince killing Huang Fu Hao, anyone with discerning eyes could see that there was something fishy about it. There was an 8 or 9 out of 10 chance that the crown prince was schemed by others. Thinking about it, it was Prince Zhou and Prince Li who had the highest possibility. However, this kind of brazen scheming didn't seem to be the style of these two people. Fu Xiao, he shook his head. It might not be done by the both of them. When Consort Dong Shu heard it, she was surprised and asked, if it is not them, then could it be other people? Fu Xiao Yi's and Shun Miao's faces appeared in his mind. There must be some unspeakable relationship between Prince Rue and Shun Miao. Even though it was not clear what was the reason for maintaining this relationship, but as long as it was related to Shun Miao, there would be an expert giving pointers behind the scenes. All sorts of signs indicated that that person was without a doubt Prince Rue. Previously Emperor Wen Hui let the Empress sound out the Shun family and spread rumors that Shun Miao was going to marry into the residence of the crown prince. Not long after Prince Rue said those specious words to Emperor Wen Hui, Emperor Wen Hui dispelled the idea of Shun Miao immediately marrying. It was obvious that this incense party was set up to target Shun Miao. Until now, Huang Fu Hao and the crown prince were both injured, but Shun Miao was safe and sound. It was said that Shun Miao was also going to Yifeng Pavilion that day, but on the way there, she bumped into an old woman and was delayed. How could it be so coincidental? Could it be that this time, it was also Prince Rue who was manipulating everything from behind? If it was done by Prince Rue, he was obviously in Ming Qi, but dared to act so brazenly and even schemed against the crown princes of two countries. This Prince Rue really made one feel somewhat terrified. Seeing Fu Xiao, he lost in thought. Consort Dong Shu asked him, "What is it?" Fu Xiao, he recovered his senses and said, "Nothing." Suddenly, he stood up and looked at Consort Dong Shu. This son suddenly remembered that there are still some matters and will not chat with Consort Mother. Business is more important. Consort Dong Shu said, "You go first." At the other end, thank the heavens and earth, Ji Yushu and Gao Yang were finally released from the Tower Prison. These days, both of them had been watching over the prisoners in the Tower Prison and had seen all kinds of methods. Gao Yang was still all right, but Ji Yushu was a delicate person and had lost a lot of weight. Not because of anything else, he was nauseous every day and could not eat, so it would be strange if he did not lose weight. With great difficulty being released, both of them held hands and looked at each other with tears in their eyes and were speechless. After a long while, Ji Yushu said, "I need to return to Feng Xian pawn shop to take a bath and change my clothes. I will bid farewell here." Finishing, he slipped away. Gao Yang sighed and looked at his dusty appearance, and his heart felt powerless. Xie Jingxing was actually so ruthless. It was just a little bit of negligence, and he actually sent them to the Tower Prison. Tower Prison. That was a place that even Tai Yi could not withstand the first time he went in. Chapter 792. Not to mention that he and Ji Yushu were pampered people. Ji Yushu returned to the Fengxian pawn shop and first let Hong Wan prepare the bathwater for him. After taking a beautiful bath and eating some snacks, he then returned to the study. Upon entering, he was almost suffocated by the dust inside. Ji Yushu's study did not allow servants to enter, as there were many secrets. Thus these days no one came in to clean. Ji Yushu originally wanted to let Hong Luan tidy up for him, but after thinking about it, he gave up. He appointed himself to pick up the broom and started sweeping. It was not easy to barely look through it before Ji Yushu sat down in front of the desk and saw that there was a thick stack of letters on the desk before he started to read. When he flipped to the last letter, Ji Yushu was already somewhat drowsy, but as he read and read, his pajamas were swept clean and his expression gradually became serious. Pei Lang was actually locked up by Fu Xiao Yi. Pei Lang's identity was exposed? Heavens, such a big thing had happened. Did anyone know? Did anyone rescue him? There should be no one. Observing Pei Lang was Ji Yushu's own private action, and at the end he was just curious why Shun Miao wanted Pei Lang to be a spy by Fu Xiaoyi's side. Even if Pei Lang had some talent, but the matter of being a spy required great loyalty. Fu Xiao he was so good at controlling. So was Shen Miao not worried that Pei Lang would be instigated to defect? More importantly, Shen Miao's relationship with Pei Lang was only mediocre, so why would she dare to make such a decision? But one did not think that this spur-of-the-moment action would be effective at this time. Ji Yushu turned his head and was about to leave to show the letter to Xie Jingxing. Just as he stood up, he stopped again. "Will third older brother lock me up again?" Ji Yushu muttered. The reason why Xie Jingxing locked Ji Yushu and Gao Yang up was because that day when the Empress summoned Shen Miao into the palace to probe Shen Miao's marriage to the crown prince. This matter was ignored by both of them and was not reported to Xie Jingxing. So Xie Jingxing directly threw both of them into the tower prison. Third older brother values Shen Young Lady very much, and this Pei Lang seems to be interested in Shen Young Lady, and even said that he wanted to marry Shen Young Lady. So Pei Lang is third older brother's love rival. Since he is a rival, would one be beaten by third older brother if one were to tell third older brother now? Third brother definitely doesn't want to save him. Pei Lang muttered to himself, just like I didn't like how Miss Peony always smiled at the Prime Minister's son. When the Prime Minister's son fell off his horse, I was very happy for him. Ji Yushu judged others by himself and came to a conclusion. It is better not to tell third older brother about this matter. Since there is no new news, he should not be dead yet. Let him stay for a few more days. Ji Yushu thought that he had done very well, but did not know what kind of changes his actions would cause in the future. Shen Xiao and Luo Ling were the commanders of the garrison in the Ministry of War, and these days they were very busy. Huangfu Hao was dead, and there were a lot of problems left behind. As for the guards of the residence of the Prince of Qin, if they were to be killed, it would cause the dissatisfaction of the Qin country's emperor. If they were not killed, they would want to seek an explanation for Huangfu Hao and spread rumors that the crown prince was the murderer among the commoners, causing the Ding capital to be busy these few days. Since he couldn't kill him, he could only put him under house arrest. But the crown prince's guards were personally selected by the Qin country's emperor to protect Huangfu Hao, so how would their abilities be ordinary? Today they would guard the residence of the Prince of Qin, and tomorrow he would think of a way to escape. In order to avoid chaos, the number of the garrison was doubled, and they patrolled around the Ding capital, fearing that the Qin guards would harm the innocent commoners in order to vent their anger. As a matter of fact, when today's matters were completed, it was already close to evening. Shen Xiao and Luo Ling walked side by side on the streets. Originally, it was nearing the end of the year, and the streets of the Ding capital were the most lively. But because of Huangfu Hao's matter, the commoners were instructed by the garrison to close their doors early and return home. But before night fell, there were already very few people on the streets. Chapter 793. Shen Xiao sighed. If the Ministry of Justice do not come up with a solution, the city guards would not be able to hold on. When the crown prince was locked up in prison, on one side the Qin emperor was aggressive and wanted an explanation, and on the other side Emperor Wen Hui was reluctant to part with his only eldest son, but it was the commoners that suffered. This year is not peaceful. Luo Ling shook his head. No matter what the result is, one fear that there will be chaos in the Ding capital. Both of them looked at each other and saw the worry in each other's eyes. Shen Xiao said, "Do not mention about this. Yesterday, I heard from Mother that younger sister's marriage needs to be reconsidered, even though there is no need to worry about the crown prince's side for the time being. But the more chaotic the situation is, the more people would want to use the Shun family as a raft. Younger sister's identity is special and would inevitably attract covetous eyes. If one does not settle the marriage early, it would not be good in the future." When Luo Ling heard it, he was surprised for a moment. Before he could speak, he heard Shen Xiao saying, "Younger Biao brother, what do you think?" "Me?" Luo Ling's face turned slightly red. "Does not older Biao brother already know of my thoughts?" Shen Xiao made a high sound and put one hand on Luo Ling's shoulder. "You are at least a martial artist and grew up with Jiu in the army. How can one speak of such things like those pedantic literati?" He said, "I see that you are good at everything except that your face is thin." You do not go and tell younger sister about this kind of matter. Could it be that you want younger sister to take the initiative to look for you? Luo Ling smiled somewhat awkwardly. Shun Xiao patiently enticed. My younger sister's temperament looks gentle on the surface, but in her bones, she is the most arrogant and stubborn. If you are thinking that younger sister will take the initiative to look for you, one fear that there is no need to think about it. As a man, if one likes, then one likes, and directly go. Even though you cannot beat me. Shun Xiao looked at Luo Ling with some pickiness. But the current situation is different, and you are barely qualified. If you would be my brother-in-law, I will also accept it. Shun Xiao said it heroically, but Luo Ling was even more embarrassed. He said, this also requires younger Biao's sister's agreement. If you do not say it, how would younger sister know your thoughts? Shun Xiao glared at him. Let's not talk about anything else. First of all, you have to find an opportunity to explain to your younger sister what you think. Biao, younger brother, I will tell you the truth. Su Ming Feng was sick in the past, and I do not like him. Feng Zi Xian, TSK. Last time their Feng family almost caused younger sister to lose her life. At the end of the day, you're not bad. Many thanks to Biao, older brother. Luo Ling smiled. If there is a chance, I will definitely. Shun Xiao still wanted to say something, but saw a horse suddenly galloping over from the other end of the street. That horse's fur was smooth, and even in the dusky evening, it was still eye-catching. It had always been heroes who loved good horses, so Shun Xiao and Luo Ling could not help but be attracted by that horse. The person on the horse was also valiant, and from afar, one could tell that he was graceful and out of this world. When that person neared Shun Xiao, he suddenly stopped the horse, and the front hooves of the horse were raised up, but the person on top was extremely stable. It was obvious that his horsemanship was outstanding and extremely beautiful. Shun Xiao couldn't help but shout, "Good!" The horse rider said, "Young General Shun." Shun Xiao was surprised for a moment. One saw that there was a person sitting on top of the horse. The luxurious purple gold robe was even more vibrant under the lantern light. His figure was tall and straight, and there was a silver mask on his face that revealed a good contour. His chin was smooth, and his thin lips were slightly raised. A pair of eyes that looked down from top to bottom was somewhat amorous. "Your Highness Prince Rue." Shun Xiao and Luo Ling quickly bowed to this person. They had seen Prince Rue in the tribute to the court and knew that this was Prince Rue without a doubt. Moreover, this kind of lazy and unrestrained temperament, only Prince Rue was unique. Prince Rue said, "No need to be polite. Just thought that this prince had seen wrongly and did not think that it was really young General Shun, so stopped to greet." He only spoke to Shun Xiao and did not look at Luo Ling. Shun Xiao was somewhat overwhelmed with favor. This Prince Rue usually did not put Emperor Wen Hui in his eyes, but he actually took the initiative to greet him. Moreover, he spoke in such a polite manner that Shun Xiao was secretly vigilant if the other party had any tricks up their sleeves, but at the same time, he had a complacent feeling. Could it be that his reputation as a young general was broadcasted that even the great Liang's Prince Rue was chasing after him? But one did not see Luo Ling's suddenly pale face. At Prince Rue's waist, there was a safety pendant that looked inexplicably familiar. Chapter 794. The markings on the pendant were very special, and one could recognize it at a glance. Luo Ling's expression was very ugly as he asked, "Dare to ask your Highness Prince Rue, where did the pendant on your waist come from?" Shun Xiao looked at Luo Ling with some surprise. Luo Ling was a person who had a sense of propriety and was usually very calm outside, but to ask Prince Rue so rashly, it was somewhat abrupt. For Prince Rue to greet you, it meant that Prince Rue was in a good mood, and it was your honor. If you take the initiative to greet Prince Rue, it would depend on whether the other party was willing to pay attention to you or not. One did not think that Prince Rue would give face today. He removed the safety pendant from his waist and played with it before smiling lazily. "This? A girl gave it to me." Shun Xiao. Prince Rue had spoken too much today. Why did these romantic affairs have to be brought up in front of two people they had never met before? Xiao was very embarrassed. There were some things that the more one knew, the earlier one would die. He did not have any interest in Prince Rui's private matters. So why did Luo Ling ask about such trivial matters? Luo Ling's face became paler and paler as he stared uncontrollably at the pendant of fortune in Prince Rui's hands. But Prince Rui only glanced at him and casually hung the safety pendant on his waist. He said to Xiao, "This prince still have matters and will not speak much with General Shen. If General Shen is free in the future, one can come over to Prince Rui's residence for a visit." He said with a smile that was not a smile. This prince would like to exchange pointers with General Shen. Finished speaking, he pulled on the reins, and the horse galloped away, leaving Xiao and his companion standing dumbfounded on the spot. Xiao muttered, "Could it be that this Prince Rui wants to rope me in?" Everything was fine, so why would Prince Rui let him go to the residence of Prince Rui? Xiao dared to say that Prince Rui did not say this to the princes of Mingqi. Even though his martial arts was indeed outstanding, and Prince Rui might have taken a liking to his martial arts at first glance. Xiao was feeling pleased with himself when he suddenly saw Luo Ling's abnormal expression. Finding it a little weird, he asked, "Cousin, what's wrong? Not feeling well? Why do you look so pale?" Luo Ling recovered to his senses and forced a smile. "Nothing much. Let's go back." "All right." Xiao looked again at the end of the street where Prince Rui disappeared and said, "It seems that Prince Rui is quite fond of that young lady, to actually hang the love token on his waist. One do not know which young lady had such an honor. One feared that she would laugh even in her dreams." Xiao's heart was carefree, but he did not discover that on the way back, Luo Ling's steps were staggering. It was as if he had suffered a heavy blow. Sure enough, as everyone expected, Huang Fu Hao's assassination in Mingqi had implicated many troubles. Although the people on the Crown Prince's side had been seeking justice for the Crown Prince, the Ministry of Justice had not taken any action. It was as if they wanted to lock the Crown Prince up forever. Emperor Wen Hui's action also made the courtiers to have a new look at him. Once the Crown Prince was imprisoned, some people saw that the situation was not right and turned around to join other princes. The structure of the imperial court changed once again. This is a story for another time, so let's not talk about it. The wind was cold at night, so Luo Tan and Luo Shuiyin went out to buy clothes for the new year. Luo Shuiyin said that both of them were big young ladies, and a few more sets of clothes had to be made, so they almost shopped all over the Ding capital. When they returned to the residence, even though Shan Miao was tired from carrying it, she also felt a little tired. Jingzhe and Guyu went to prepare the water, and when Shan Miao came out from her bath, she saw that there was one more person in the room. When Xie Jingxing turned back, he saw Shan Miao wearing a middle garment and one hand holding a handkerchief to twist her wet hair. The current young female was different from 2 years ago. Even though her stature was still petite, she was like a budding flower, green and fragrant. The middle garment was slightly wet, and it seemed that one could see the slim figure through the outside. Under the flickering light, her red lips and white teeth could be seen, and her eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of mist. Her hair was black and wet and stuck to her cheeks. The lower it was, the more one could see the faintly discernible whiteness. Chapter 795. Xie Jingxing looked away, and before Shan Miao could react, she saw a thick cloak thrown towards her, almost causing her to stumble. After hugging the cloak tightly, Shan Miao angrily said, "What are you doing?" "Wear it." Xie Jingxing frowned. "No one will care if one catches a cold." Shan Miao was exasperated. This person could always say good words to make others hate him, but she did feel a little cold, so she covered the cloak again. Xie Jingxing then turned his head and swept a glance at her. Seeing that Shan Miao did not seem to care that there was a male in the room and was still calmly twisting her hair, his lips could not help but twitch. One could not blame Shan Miao for not having such thoughts. In her previous lifetime, she admired Fu Xiao, but from the beginning to the end, it was only wishful thinking and there was no mutual affection between the two. When Fu Xiao was acting with her, it was at most gratitude and respect. As for those scenes that made one blush and heartbeat, there was none. Afterwards, she became the Empress, and the most she did every day was to face the 3,000 charming beauties in the palace, and the most she saw were eunuchs. Thus she did not feel that there was anything wrong with her current appearance. She walked over and sat down as she twisted her hair. Seeing Xie Jingxing sizing her up thoughtfully, she did not know why her face turned hot and asked, "What are you looking at?" "One thought that you would not be shy," Xie Jingxing lazily said, "Still all right." Finally relieved. Shen Miao was baffled. Xie Jingxing propped his chin up and sized her up before asking, "Why are you looking for me?" Today it was Shen Miao who let Song Yang think of a way to call Xie Jingxing over. Anyway, there was a messenger in the room, so it would be a waste not to use it. But Song Yang was really useful. Did not Xie Jingxing come over now? Shen Miao stopped twisting her hair and hesitated for a moment before asking. "Gentleman, Pei did not reply to me for a long time. Help me inquire about the residence of Prince Ding. Did something happen to Gentleman Pei?" When Shen Miao said the 3 words Gentleman Pei, she was still somewhat hesitant. She did not take the initiative to tell Xie Jingxing about Pei Lang's matters, but with Xie Jingxing's methods, one feared that he had long grasped the relationship between Pei Lang and her. In the past, Pei Lang would send her letters every 3 to 5 days, passing on some matters of the residence of Prince Ding, but these days there were no letters. Shen Miao guessed that something had happened. If there was no Xie Jingxing, she would directly go to the Feng Xian pawn shop. Since there was Xie Jingxing and Ji Yushu and Xie Jingxing were together, she would directly entrust it to Xie Jingxing. Hearing this, Xie Jingxing's eyes paused for a moment and looked at her meaningfully. "Pei Lang," he lightly said, "you are very concerned about him." Shen Miao frowned. "I am not a person who Pei Lang." Even if she was dissatisfied with Pei Lang in her previous life, in this life, Pei Lang was still on her side. She couldn't do something like betraying him. Xie Jingxing nodded casually. "Okay, I'll help you find out." Shen Miao, why did she feel that Xie Jingxing was just casually brushing her off? Xing over and said, Xie, Shun, no. Shun Xing, Shun, Xing Shun, 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 Shun Shun, Shun the Xing. Xie Xing said Xie. Xing Shun? Shen Miao was surprised for a moment. What? The Qin Emperor had already given the old emperor a final threat. If the crown prince is not dealt with to avenge Huangfu Hao, the emperor will send troops to attack Mingqi. Xie Jingxing stared at the tea leaves floating in the teacup, and one could not hear any joy or anger in his tone. At this juncture, the old emperor dare not take risks. Shen Miao said, "Already given the final threat, no wonder, but..." She raised her head and looked at Xie Jingxing. For these words to be said so quickly, one think that the Qin Emperor did not investigate the cause of it. Is he determined to make the crown prince a scapegoat? Why? Could it be that he does not want to catch the real murderer of his son? In Shen Miao's thoughts, even though she had already guessed this result, she did not expect it to come so quickly. After all, the death of a person was not a small matter. No matter what the Qin Emperor would investigate, and Emperor Wen Hui and the other party would be in a deadlock for a period of time. Chapter 796. Xie Jingxing smiled. Naive. Shen Miao. It had been a long time since someone called her naive. One heard Xie Jingxing said, "The imperial family only cares about the result, and what the truth is not important, as it is impossible for Huangfu Hao to come back from the dead." He played with the teacup in his hand and said, "The Qin kingdom lost a crown prince and a princess, but the Qin kingdom might have other suitable princes. It's just that the Qin kingdom's politics must be very messy because of this. Since the Qin country is wary of Mingqi, naturally Mingqi must pay the same price. No matter if the crown prince is a murderer or not, the crown prince must die." The smile on Xie Jingxing's lips was cold. Only with the crown prince's death would Mingqi and Qin country be considered even. Shen Miao sucked in a breath of cold air. Xie Jingxing's words were indeed ruthless, but it also tore open the bright cloth covering the surface. Ming Qi and the Qin country were originally evenly matched in terms of national power, and now that the Qin country had lost a crown prince, one feared that the princes fighting for the throne would cause chaos in the court. If Ming Qi was fine, it would make people angry. No matter what, the first reaction of a person in a quagmire was not to think of a way to climb out, but to pull the person next to him and slide in together. The so-called alliance that shared weal and woe was nothing more than this. They were bound together by benefits and calculated carefully based on benefits. One feared that Emperor Wenhui had already seen this point clearly, so very soon the crown prince would become the counterweight to balance this unfairness. Ming Qi had one more crown prince and erased the crown prince. No matter how reluctant he was, for the sake of the world, he had to be willing. Shen Miao remained silent. Xie Jingxing smiled, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You have done well. Shen Miao said, I am only responsible for thinking. You are the hero. This play was thought up by Shen Miao, and Xie Jingxing was responsible for perfecting it. Xie Jingxing had many people with different talents, and among them, calculating the different routes that the crown prince and Huangfu Hao would take. The timing was accurate, and the acting was just right. All these were not easy to complete. Shen Miao thought that Xie Jingxing's contribution was the biggest. Xie Jingxing smiled and declined to comment. After talking for a while, Shen Miao's hair was dry, and she was so sleepy that she yawned twice. When Xie Jingxing saw this, he planned to leave. Before leaving, Shen Miao suddenly called out to him and hesitated before opening her mouth to ask, Did Princess Rong Xian look for you recently? No. Xie Jingxing raised his eyebrows. Then what do you plan to do? Xie Jingxing did not even turn his head back as he flew out of the window and threw out these words. Nothing. Shen Dongling and Wang Bai were locked up in the innermost room of the prison. One did not know if Emperor Wenhui was doing it on purpose to show fairness, but he did not randomly capture people and did not touch the rest of the Wang family. But this did not mean that the situation was much better. The minister counselors Fu only had Wang Bai as its sole heir. If something happened to Wang Bai, the Wang family would be finished. The jailers who came and went did not give the 2 of them a good look. How many powerful people had been locked up in this prison? Once they lost their power, they would lose everything. Besides, the minister counselor was not a high-ranking official and was not worthy of being given a good look. Shen Dongling was extremely embarrassed. A few days ago, she was harboring the dream of a meteoric rise in the future, but did not think that there would be such an ending. Originally, when they were rich and comfortable, she and Wang Bai treated each other with respect and were harmonious. But once something happened, the astute Wang Bai and the equally astute Shen Dongling, those hidden cracks and contradictions were exposed. Wang Bai blamed Shen Dongling. After all, the idea of Pinxiang was Shen Dongling's, who knew that both of them would be buried in prison. Wang Bai was not a fool. Since the crown prince had not been rescued, how good would their reaction be? The most important thing was that the crown prince was the heir apparent, and there would be the Empress who would run errands for him. Other than the money that the Wang family could not expose to the world, what else did they have? Chapter 797. Shen Dongling could only defend herself. How would she know that Huangfu Hao would mysteriously die? This matter was a conspiracy. Someone wanted to scheme against the crown prince, but they also schemed against the 2 of them. Shen Dongling was innocent. Today, the jailer came and brought them food that was different from the past. The food was very fresh, and there was even meat mixed in it. Shen Dongling was still a little happy. The food they had eaten in prison these days was often rotten, or it was dry and hard to eat. Suddenly seeing such a sumptuous meal, he was pleasantly surprised and asked, Big brother, is this for us? The jailer glanced at her and gave a strange smile, saying, Yes, it is for you. Wang Bai suddenly realized something, and his expression became ugly. He asked, Big brother, what is the meaning of this? At least there is someone who understands. The jailer continued, Finish this last meal and be on your way. The chopsticks in Shen Dongling's hand fell to the ground with a clatter, almost not daring to believe her ears. It was Wang Bai who fell on his, but to the ground as if he had already expected it. It was as if all his energy had been sucked out, and he could not stand up again. "Big brother, what is going on?" Shen Dongling suddenly became agitated, as if she could not believe this fact. Her voice became somewhat sharp as she asked, "When can we be released? We were wrongly accused? The assassination of the Qin Crown Prince really has nothing to do with us. We have been locked up for so long. Is the matter not clear yet? When can we be released home?" She spoke quickly and anxiously, as if this could dispel the fear in her heart. It was the first time Wang Bai saw Shen Dongling lose her composure like this. He looked at Shen Dongling in a daze and did not speak. The jailer's brows furrowed at Shen Dongling's words. He took 2 steps back before saying impatiently, "Not to mention you. Even His Highness the Crown Prince has been convicted. How can you say you are innocent?" Wang Bai was startled and asked, "His Highness the Crown Prince has pleaded guilty?" The jailer gave a snort and said, "Isn't that so? Regardless of whether you are wrongly accused or not, it is your good fortune to be together with His Highness the Crown Prince. Furthermore," the jailer's smile was somewhat malicious, "even if you are innocent, the Wang family's illicit salt trade is not a small crime." Wang Bai's body trembled, and he asked with a trembling voice, "This? How do you know?" "How would I know?" The jailer waved his hands and impatiently said, "That is what the outside says." He took another look at Wang Bai and said, "I heard that when we sent people to raid the Wang family's gold and silver were carried out in chests, and it took them an entire afternoon. Since you've enjoyed riches and honor, you won't lose out in this life. Young Master Wang, don't think about anything else. Just eat this bowl of rice in peace and reincarnate into a good family in your next life." Shen Dongling's heart sank. If it was said that there was still a sliver of hope before, then once the matter of the illicit salt was revealed, then she and Wang Bai would really have no way out. Dongling felt that the Shun Tian, Shun Ling, Shun not Dong, and Ling, and Shun, Wang's family would Ling Ling Shun, Shun Ling Ling Shun, Wang Ling Shun, Shi Ling, Ling Shun, Wang Ling Ling, Wang Prince Dong 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 Ling Ling, Wang of Ling, Shun Dong Ling only felt that the sky and earth were spinning. She had tried every possible means to exchange marriage with Shun Yu and planned such a marriage for herself. Towards the Wang family, she was also extremely satisfied. Although the Wang clan couldn't be considered to be extremely powerful, with money, they didn't have to worry about food and clothing, and their days would only get better and better. But how did he end up in prison? How did his riches and honor vanish like smoke? She couldn't accept this. If she did not come up with this idea for Wang Bai, would they be able to avoid this calamity? Huang Fu Hao would not have died, the crown prince would not have been wrongly accused, and they would not have become innocent sacrifices. Why was she bewitched that day and wanted to scheme against Xin Miao? It was obvious that those who went against Xin Miao would not have a good ending, so why did one have to personally knock one's head until it bled? Chapter 798. Xin Miao? That's right, Xin Miao. Xin Miao must have done something behind the scenes for the matter to be in such a state. Shen Dongling suddenly had an idea and took off a bracelet from her wrist. Her jewelry was almost used up after she entered the prison, and this bracelet was given to her by Wang Foreign on the day she married. It was extremely valuable and could almost buy a shop in a remote place. She stuffed the shop into the jailer's hands and said eagerly, "May trouble eldest brother to help me find my 5th younger sister and help me pass a message. Just say that I have something to say to her." She then earnestly said, "One's words are kind when one is about to die. Hope that eldest brother can help me one last time." She was born to be good-looking and with such a delicate and pitiful posture and with tears on her eyelashes. The jailer's heart softened a little. He took the bracelet and said, "Since that is the case, one will help you this time. But I'm only responsible to pass the message and cannot guarantee if 5th Xin young lady will come or not." Shen Dongling quickly thanked him. Wang Bai sneered, and his expression was somewhat tired. One did not know if he was laughing at himself or Shen Dongling. "Could it be that you think that Shun Miao will come and save you? I do not know if she will come or not." Shen Dongling changed the weak look she had when she was facing the jailer, and her expression was somewhat ruthless. If she is willing to save me and be humble, I am not afraid to give in to her. But if she does not have the heart to save me, then why would the first household of the Shun family be able to live on safe and sound? Since we are one family, naturally one should face difficulties and hardships together. Just as Shun Dongling thought, the jailer really passed her words to Shun Miao, but Shun Miao was very straightforward and directly interrupted the conversation, indicating that she was not willing to go. She even let Jing seal a heavy pouch for the jailer. The entire residence of the Shun family was no longer there, and only the first household of the Shun family was still standing tall, like an iron wall in the Ding capital. 2 years ago, Shun Xian was demoted and chased out of the Ding capital, and one did not think that he would return after 2 years. Not only that, compared to 2 years ago, Shun Xian's attitude was even more unyielding and was no longer modest, but no one was able to grab hold of his weakness. Even Emperor Wen Hui had to be courteous to him. One was a prisoner, and the other was a military officer with great power. In any case, the jailer would not choose to offend a military officer for a prisoner. The jailer left. Shen Miao sat in front of the dressing mirror as Jing combed her hair and asked, "This servant thought that young lady would go and meet third young lady." Gu Yu glared at her. Why would young lady want to see her? After all, the second and third household of the Shun family have nothing to do with us. Besides, what they have committed is a capital offense. If Miss goes to see her for no reason, what if other people think too much and implicate Miss? Jing just stuck out her tongue and said, "Did young lady not see second young lady and eldest young lady one last time?" Shen Dongling is not an ordinary person. Shen Miao listened to the two of them arguing and said, "I will not jump into a pit specially dug for me." Dig a pit? Jing's expression suddenly changed. Young lady is saying that third young lady wants to harm young lady. One must always guard against others. Shen Miao said lightly. Among these daughters of the Shun residents, Shen Yu and Shun Qing were after all spoiled by their mother. Although they were vicious, their schemes were not very deep. Most likely it was because they were still young that some things could not be seen clearly. But Shen Dongling was different. Since young, Shen Dongling and Wan Yinyang were suppressed by Ren Wanyun and her biological father. Shen Gui had an indifferent temperament. To survive in such an environment, Shen Dongling's was more tenacious than the average person. She was able to hide in the courtyard for more than 10 years, and let Ren Wanyun take her lightly was enough to prove this point. Towards such an enemy, Shen Miao did not dare to look at it clearly. If Shen Yu and Shen Qing were to suffer a heavy blow, she would be the first to panic, but Shen Dongling would still grasp the last opportunity to scheme. As long as she did not die, she would be able to scheme for what she wanted at the last moment. Chapter 799. Seeing how Shen Dongling treated her biological father so coldly, Shen Miao did not think that Shen Dongling would have any feelings for her. Gu Yu also rambled on. One do not know what she is thinking in her heart. Since she is already in prison, one fear that she would not be able to play any tricks. No need to worry. As long as I do not go, there will not be any mistakes. Shen Miao comforted them. If she wants to ask me for help, I would not be able to do it, and it would be useless even if I go. If she wants to pull me into the water, I would not even see her, so naturally there is no other way. Jingjin nodded her head repeatedly. Correct. It is correct not to go. Shen Miao's eyes drooped down, but there was one thing that she found strange. The Crown Prince and Wang Bai were naturally imprisoned because of Huang Fuhao's matter, but Emperor Wen Hui's decision to convict them spread so quickly. Other than the Qin Emperor's urging, one feared that it was related to the news of the illicit salt trade. Emperor Wen Hui could not tolerate people who sought wealth under his eyelids, even if it was his own son. The Qin Emperor's coercion and Emperor Wen Hui's anger was the reason why the decision was spread so quickly. It was just that. How did the news of the illicit salt spread out? Was it done by Xie Jingxing? She held her cheeks as she thought hard. In the palace, outside the Yang Exine Hall, The Empress had been kneeling in the courtyard for an entire day. He had been kneeling since dawn. The servants tried to persuade him, but to no avail. It was already afternoon. Japan was cold in winter, and the ground was covered with ice. After kneeling for a whole day, without a cushion to support his knees, it was easy for his knees to catch a cold. He was afraid that his body was stiff. The sun was shining in the sky, and even though there were no problems with the Empress body on normal days, at this moment she was sweating profusely. She clenched her teeth and did not say a word as she silently knelt and looked as if she was going to fall in the next moment. The palace maid by her side advised, "Your ladyship, it is better to return first. One fear that His Majesty is busy today, so your ladyship need not hurt your body. It is not good to catch a cold in this cold weather." "Ben Gong want to kneel," the Empress said in a firm tone. "Kneel until His Majesty changes his mind." When the eunuch passed the Empress' words to Emperor Wen Hui's ears in the study, Emperor Wen Hui flew into a rage and said, "Let her kneel. Let her kneel. She wants me to change my mind and make her give up." Ever since she knew that the Crown Prince's conviction document was out, the Empress wanted to personally see Emperor Wen Hui to plead for leniency, but Emperor Wen Hui did not even want to see her. The Empress was worried about the Crown Prince, but was helpless and could only kneel in the courtyard outside the Yang Exine Palace Hall, thinking that after kneeling for a long time, Emperor Wen Hui would eventually let her in because of his face. The Empress knew that the Crown Prince had committed a big mistake. If one were to talk about Huang Fu Hao's matter, a discerning person would be able to see that there was something fishy about it, and because of this, Emperor Wen Hui's heart still protected this son. The matter of trading illicit salt with the Wang family had wiped away the last bit of guilt in Emperor Wen Hui's heart. Now that Emperor Wen Hui was angry and disgusted with the Crown Prince, how could he listen to the Empress' advice? The Empress also had no other way. After being husband and wife with Emperor Wen Hui for so many years, she knew clearly what Emperor Wen Hui was thinking in his heart, but the Crown Prince was her only son. For this only son, she was willing to kneel for a lifetime. So what was one day? Just as they were in a deadlock, one heard a chuckle from behind, and someone walked over Enchanting. She was wearing a peach-red gold silk dress, and her clothes were bright and glowed with glory. She looked at the Empress and said, "Why is older sister kneeling here?" Scared younger sister so much that one thought that older sister would give such a big bow to younger sister. In the future, do not make such a joke again. The Empress gritted her teeth as she looked at her with hatred. This person was Consort Su Xian. To tell the truth, how could the matter of the Crown Prince's illicit salt trade suddenly spread out? The Empress suspected that Prince Zhou and Prince Jing had something to do with it. After the Crown Prince's death, the two brothers would have one less formidable enemy. It was just that there was no evidence, so she could not say anything. But Consort Su Xian had the ability to add fuel to the fire. Consort Su Xian smiled prettily and asked, "Why is older sister not going in? Could it be that you have done something wrong and are kneeling to His Majesty for forgiveness? Why not younger sister go in and plead for older sister?" Chapter 800. Consort Su Xian smiled prettily and asked, "Why is older sister not going in? Could it be that you have done something wrong and are kneeling to ask His Majesty for forgiveness? Why not younger sister go in and plead for older sister?" The Empress gritted her teeth. No need. In the previous dynasty's battles, it often involved the women in the inner palace. When Prince Zhou's faction and the Crown Prince's faction fought, it not only represented the Dragon Throne, but also the people behind them. If the Crown Prince were to fall, how long would the Empress' position last? There would be a day when Emperor Wen Hui would grow old, and if Prince Zhou were to sit on the Dragon Throne, what kind of ending would the Empress have? There were countless of dirty tricks in an official's residence, and it was even more so in the inner palace. If one was not careful, one would lose one's life and one's family would be implicated. How could one not be careful in their lives? Consort Su Xian smiled. If older sister is not willing, younger sister will not force. But younger sisters still have things to say to His Majesty and will not disturb older sister's interest. She covered her mouth and laughed before sending someone to inform Emperor Wen Hui. The Empress could not wait to scratch Consort Su Xian's face. The Empress could almost guess what Consort Su Xian would say if she went in now. It was nothing more than adding oil to the fire. Emperor Wenhui had always listened to Consort Su Xian's words, and one fear that his anger towards the Crown Prince would be even higher. But she was unable to stop Consort Su Xian. Consort Su Xian was about to go in when she saw a person rushing over from outside. Upon seeing Consort Su Xian, she said apologetically, "Consort Xian, His Highness Prince Rue is outside and is requesting to see His Majesty." Prince Rue? Consort Su Xian and the Empress were startled at the same time. What was Prince Rue doing here at this time? Even though Consort Su Xian was usually arrogant and willful, it was not that she did not know what was going on. That arrogance was just a small temper towards Emperor Wenhui, but she dared not be careless in big matters. She immediately said, "Then I will come back later." The Empress was after all older than Consort Su Xian by a few years and had seen more of the court's matters. Her heart sank. Prince Rue did not come earlier or later, but came when the Crown Prince met with an accident, and Emperor Wenhui had issued the letter of conviction. One feared that his intentions were not good. The close attendant by Emperor Wenhui's side quickly came out and spoke a few words to the person who reported before the person went out. The Empress and Consort Su Xian, one was kneeling and one was standing when one saw a young male dressed in purple walking in. He wore half a silver mask and had a leisurely expression. The Empress felt ashamed and angry for no reason. As the Empress of a country, she was seen in such a sorry state by an outsider. Consort Su Xian looked at the other's face and was slightly dazed. Some people were born very strange. It was hard to see what their appearance was like, but their noble and elegant aura was enough to make people admire them. It was as though as long as he stood there, the gazes of others would fall on him. Prince Rue walked past the Empress and only glanced at her. There was not much meaning in his eyes, and his footsteps did not stop, as if he did not see the mother of the country kneeling in front of the hall. But this was definitely not because he understood the Empress, so he pretended not to know. Even though Prince Rue did not reveal any expression, the Empress felt that the other party was just too lazy to look, and it was the disdain and contempt that was revealed from the bottom of his heart. She was mortified. In the study, Emperor Wenhui was sitting in front of the table. His performance was light and steady, as if the person who was in a rage in the study was not him. It was just that his back was somewhat stiff. The purple-clad youth walked in from outside and lazily called Your Majesty as a greeting. After that, he walked to the opposite of him and sat down. He sat casually, as if Emperor Wenhui was the guest, and there was no trace of respect or worship in his eyes. That look made Emperor Wenhui have a feeling that in front of this young man, he did not count as anything. Chapter 801. This thought only lasted for a short moment before Emperor Wenhui recovered to his senses and smiled as he looked at Prince Rue. These days Zhen is very busy and did not ask if Prince Rue is used to living here. There was some closeness in these words. Now that the Qin country had a bad attitude towards the Ming Qi, if the Great Liang had other thoughts at this time, the Ming Qi would really be in a dilemma. Thus Emperor Wenhui did not want to make things too bad with the Great Liang. It was good to admit weakness or lower one's head. As long as one could pass this hurdle in front of them, anything else could be discussed in the future. That was why he rushed to please Prince Rue. If the commoners of the Ming Qi saw Emperor Wenhui like this, one feared that they would scoff. Prince Rue smiled lazily. "Thanks to Your Majesty's blessings, this prince is living well, but one heard that Your Majesty is not well these few days." Emperor Wenhui's heart jumped, but did not show it at all on his face. He only shook his head and smiled bitterly. One cannot teach one's son properly and let Prince Rue see a joke. One cannot blame Your Majesty. Prince Rue said, "After all, Your Majesty has 9 sons." One could not hear any joy or anger in his tone, but Emperor Qin is pitiful. To come to the Ming Qi to pay tribute, the Crown Prince and Princess both died here. It is really an unexpected disaster. Emperor, when Huey's smile became somewhat awkward. Prince Rue was not wrong. The Qin Emperor kept requesting the crown prince to pay with his life because he wanted to pursue balance, but there was another reason. Two countries came to pay tribute, but Prince Rui of the Great Liang was not harmed at all, but the crown prince and princess of the Qin country died. What was going on? Was the Ming Qi deliberately targeting their Qin country? Or was it to show that the Qin country was weak and could not even protect the crown prince and princess? In any case, this was a matter that made the Qin country lose face, and Emperor Qin was most annoyed by this. So even if the crown prince paid with his life, the vanity of a superior would make Emperor Qin hate the Ming Qi for a period of time. He said, "Zhen will also deal with this matter as soon as possible." Prince Rue smiled. Emperor Qin would not give up so easily. Emperor when Huey's breath was stuck in his chest. His words were tactful, and he did not want to delve into this topic with the other party. But he did not know if Prince Rue did not understand it or what. But he used this matter to block his heart, and even said it without giving any face. Of course, Emperor Wen Hui would not think that Prince Rue was so stupid that he could not read the situation. So Prince Rue was doing it on purpose to disgust him. Emperor Wen Hui really wanted to brush his sleeves and leave like how he treated his disobedient courtiers or fly into a rage. Unfortunately, Prince Rue was not one of his courtiers. Even though he was a prince of first rank, in some aspects, he was more ferocious than the emperor. Emperor Wen Hui could only stiffly change the topic and asked, "But one do not know why Prince Rue came to look for Zhen today?" Prince Rue did not speak and only bent a finger to knock on the table. In the silence, Emperor Wen Hui's heart was also grabbed by that finger that was knocking on the table. He suddenly thought that Prince Rue had picked this time to come over. Could it be that he wanted to talk to him about something important? If Prince Rue were to mention the city at the border of the Great Liang and Ming Qi at this time, how could Emperor Wen Hui reject it? His spine was initially stiff, but now it was drenched in cold sweat. The other party was so silent, but it unknowingly made him feel a great weight. After a moment, Prince Rue's finger that was knocking on the table paused, and he casually said, "It is for this prince's lifelong event." What? Upon hearing these words, Emperor Wen Hui instinctively froze for a moment, and before he could understand, he heard Prince Rue's flat voice. Imperial older brother had always hoped that this prince would get married as soon as possible. This time over to the Ming Qi, he instructed this prince to bring my princess back. This prince also has this intention. Chapter 802. This time Emperor Wen Hui understood. Prince Rue wanted to find a female in Ming Qi, but why? Emperor Wen Hui instinctively felt that it was somewhat strange and guessed that there was a conspiracy, but he could not show it. He immediately revealed a magnanimous smile and said, "So it is like this. No matter what, heroes have a weakness for the charms of beauties. Prince Rue is a young talent and naturally should have a beautiful wife like a flower. One just do not know which family's young lady Prince Rue fancies." Prince Rue stared at him, and a pair of beautiful peach blossom eyes suddenly burst into a smile. Emperor Wen Hui was surprised for a moment before he heard that youth lightly speaking. "Shun family, Shun Miao." Emperor Wen Hui could not laugh anymore. His heart was trembling with anger and wished that someone could drag Prince Rue down to behead him, but he could not. But he finally could not maintain the friendly smile on his face, and his expression was extremely stiff. He asked in a dry voice, "Who did you say?" "The daughter of the formidable great general." Prince Rue said, "Your Majesty do not remember? Did the crown prince not want to marry her as a souffle a few days ago? To actually force one to this extent. Too much bullying." Many thoughts appeared in Emperor Wen Hui's mind in a split second, and at the end, he could not help but sneer. This Prince Rue looked lazy and did not care about anything. He did not even put the alliance between Ming Qi and the Qin country in his eyes and only minded his own business every day. So he was actually a pig pretending to eat the tiger and still had a trick up his sleeves. Thinking about marrying the daughter of the formidable great general. Was he marrying Shun Miao or the Shun family's military power. Emperor Wenhui knew that to the Great Liang, the Shun family's military power was nothing, as the Great Liang had many outstanding officers and soldiers. But to Ming Qi, most of the outstanding officers were dismissed by him in the early years, and now the Xie family was in decline, so the only one that could support the prestige of Ming Qi was the Shun family. Without the Shun family and Ming Qi, it was like a tiger without its claws. If one were to deal with the Great Liang, one feared that one would not even be able to struggle for a few minutes before being eaten up cleanly. What a good Prince Rui! What a good Great Liang! Emperor Wenhui forced out a smile. Prince Rui has good foresight, but everyone knows that General Shun loves his daughter. If Prince Rui insisted on marrying Shun Miao, one feared that General Shun would love his young daughter and would not be willing for her to marry to the Great Liang. What is so difficult about this? Prince Rui played with the thumb ring in his hand and casually said, "If General Shun is not willing, is to marry." Rui was Wenhui. Prince Rui's words continued to pass into his ears. The Great Liang and Ming Qi are currently considered friendly. Your Majesty will not even give this prince this favor, right? He stretched his body and said lightly, "If that's the case, it's time for me to report to my brother about the city." Emperor Wenhui had lived for a lifetime and finally knew what was the feeling of trembling with anger. The Shun family was a piece of fat meat, and Prince Rui not only wanted to snatch this piece of fat meat, he also wanted the host family to offer the fat meat with both hands. If he really gave this imperial edict, one fear that even if Shun Xian stayed in Ming Qi in the future due to his loyalty, he would still have resentment towards him. It was he who gave the imperial edict for Shun Miao to marry far away. If he was not willing to give an imperial edict, Emperor Wenhui looked at the man in front of him. He was wearing a mask, and one could not see what expression he had, but he felt that under this person's lazy appearance, there was an extremely powerful means. Under the precarious situation of the Ming, Qi, and Qin countries' alliance, it was not a wise move to rashly go against the Great Liang. Prince Rui gave him a difficult problem, and there was no answer to this difficult problem because any answer would be wrong. The one who would suffer would be him. That man's gaze landed on Emperor Wenhui, like a cat playing with a mouse in its claws. He lazily asked, "Has your Majesty thought it through?" Chapter 803. Emperor Wenhui stifled his anger. Ever since he ascended to the throne, he had dealt with numerous troublesome matters, but there was not once that made one feel so aggrieved. There was no one who dared to be so rude and presumptuous to him. For the first time in his life, Emperor Wenhui started to regret that he should not have concentrated his military power to deal with the aristocratic families. If Ming Qi had a few more valiant generals like Shen Xian, would they not need to be so submissive in front of the Great Liang? But how could there be medicine for regret in this world? When Prince Rui saw that he did not reply, he smiled and stood up. This prince understands. He made a move to leave. "Wait, Emperor," Wenhui called out to him. Prince Rui stood still and smiled. "Your Majesty must have thought it through. As the ruler of a country, one's words carry enormous weight. Since Ming Qi and the Great Liang are on good terms, Zhen naturally also have the beauty of helping others." Emperor Wenhui's smile was uglier than crying as he said, "If the young lady of the Shun family were to marry to Prince Rui, it would be the fortune of the young lady of the Shun family, and Zhen would be happy to see it happen. Don't worry, I will draft an edict today, and in a few days I will announce it." He squatted for a while, and with great difficulty spat out a few words from his mouth. "About the city, just take it as a gift to His Majesty." Lord Rui smiled and left in a good mood. After Prince Rui left, Emperor Wenhui collapsed on the chair, and beads of perspiration appeared on his forehead, but his face was flushed red. Anger, shame, humiliation, and resentment interweaved on his face. However, he was powerless to change this. This was perhaps the most embarrassing thing in the world. He was the ruler of a country, the chosen one, but he had no choice but to admit his helplessness. Eunuch Gao, who was standing at the side, didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Seeing the emperor being forced into such a state with his own eyes, it was only natural for a servant to be frightened. "Bring Zhen's pen and paper over," Emperor Wenhui suddenly said after a moment. Eunuch Gao hurriedly agreed. Emperor Wenhui's gaze was heavy. Even though Prince Rue said that the matter of the city would not be mentioned for the time being, it was a temporary stability that was exchanged with the Shun family's marriage. No one knew how long the stability would last. The most important thing was that after Shan Miao married to Prince Rue, even though Shen Xian was still a Ming Qi person, Emperor Wenhui no longer dared to trust Shen Xian. Even though he suppressed Shen Xian previously, it was because he was afraid that Shen Xian's meritorious service would overshadow the emperor. But the formidable great general had been loyal for generations, and Emperor Wenhui believed in Shen Xian's loyalty. But his daughter was in the Great Liang, and if the Great Liang used Shen Miao as leverage to threaten Shen Xian, who knew what kind of things Shen Xian would do? Shen Xian, this chess piece was crippled, and Ming Qi's situation would be even more difficult. In order to guard against the Great Liang, Ming Qi must quickly restore the alliance relationship with the Qin country. With both countries working together, they would be able to contend against the Great Liang. The Qin country was still angry at the Ming Qi because of Huangfu Hao and Princess Ming'an, so the Ming Qi must show sincerity. The crown prince must die. Emperor Wenhui closed his eyes. Out of everyone's expectations, Emperor Wenhui's letter of conviction to the crown prince came so quickly and urgently that no one had time to think clearly. The crown prince committed suicide in prison. Whether it was suicide or not, a discerning person could see it, but it was to preserve the crown prince's reputation. One could not let the dignified crown prince end up like a prisoner in the marketplace and be beheaded in front of everyone. Moreover, it was because of the crime of assassinating another country's crown prince. One feared that the prestige of the Ming Qi's imperial family would be lost the next day. The commoners were always easy to fool, but the officials were well versed in this. Who would know if the crown prince committed suicide or not? The imperial family always liked to find a good reason for themselves, even if they were dirty. When the news of the crown prince's suicide was spread, the Empress seemed to have made a ruckus before falling seriously ill and did not step out of the Kuan-Ning palace to recuperate. Chapter 804. All the concubines in the inner palace were in danger. How could the Empress be seriously ill? It was because the crown prince had fallen. With the crown prince falling, the Empress would have no one to rely on for the rest of her life, and it was hard to say if she could still sit on this position. The Empress had lost her beloved son, and one feared that she would hold a grudge against Emperor Wenhui. Naturally, Emperor Wenhui had to be on guard. Only they themselves knew if it was because of illness that they did not leave the house or if they were under house arrest. If the Empress also fell, who would be the next master in the six palaces? It seemed that Consort Su Xian had the highest chance of winning. Emperor Wenhui doted on Consort Su Xian, and Consort Su Xian had two princes' sons. The Prince Zhou and Prince Jing brothers were fighting to the death with Prince Li's faction, but Prince Li did not have a favored consort mother. Prince Zhou and Prince Jing could be considered as having the right time, place, and people. Thus, the concubines were very careful in their conduct. At this juncture, one could not let others catch hold of their weakness, and if one was careless, one would be used as a gun, and it would not be good. In Huangfu Hao's matter, other than the crown prince and the empress who were implicated, all the other related people were implicated. The one who was implicated the most was the residence of the Minister of Land. That day, it was the young Master Wang of the Minister of Land's residence who requested to taste incense, and he even brought along his wife, who knew that Huangfu Hao's blood would splatter all over Yifeng Pavilion, and Wang Bai and Shundong Ling would definitely not be able to escape. But this was not the reason why they were convicted. The Minister of Land was found to be in the business of trading illicit salt. Trading illicit salt was a big crime, and the entire Wang residence would be implicated. Wang Bai and Shun Dongling were sentenced to be beheaded, and the rest of the Wang family's males were exiled, and the females were sent to the border as military prostitutes. Emperor Wenhui's action was seen by a discerning person that this time he was quite angry, as if he had been provoked and was deliberately taking it out on others. But the emperor's mind was something that one could not fathom. Even though the officials were puzzled, they were only following orders. Shen Miao was drinking tea as she listened to Jingja talk about the things that happened in the past few days. Luo Tan, who was by her side, kept stuffing snowflake sweets in her mouth. The snowflake sweets were brought in from Tsongyang, and it was said that it was made by a famous pastry chef in the Great Liang. Shun Miao did not pay attention, but was discovered by Luo Tan. After Luo Tan ate it, she was pleasantly surprised and asked Shen Miao where she bought it from. Shen Miao could only stammer and reply casually. Crown Prince Qin's matter has caused quite a stir. As Luo Tan ate, she said, "So many people have been buried with him. Even a crown prince wouldn't be enough." At the end of her sentence, her voice became softer, as if she was afraid that the walls might be eavesdropping. Shen Miao gently smiled and declined to comment, but her heart was shocked by Emperor Wenhui's ruthlessness and decisiveness. Indeed, like father, like son. In the past, when Fu Xiaoyi wanted to eradicate the Shun family, he did not care about Fu Ming and Wan Yu's life and death. At that time, she was thinking, how could there be such a heartless person in the world? Now it seemed that Fu Xiaoyi's actions were exactly the same as Emperor Wenhui's. In the eyes of the Fu family, love, or friendship were all unreliable. Only power was what they chased after their entire life. In order to secure this position, sacrificing one son was nothing. Anyway, there would be other women who would bear children for them. This was most likely the Fu family's innate unrighteousness. Luo Tan looked at the small amount of snowflake sweets on the plate and counted with her fingers. Gumu and Gufu have eaten, older brother Chiu has also eaten, and only older brother Ling has not eaten. How about leaving this for older brother Ling? She looked at Shen Miao. Naturally, Shen Miao would not fuss over a mouthful and nodded her head. It would be good if you could remember where you bought this snowflake sweets from. Luo Tan sighed and said with some regret, "I have eaten all the pastries in the Shaochun city and also ate the pastries in the Ding capital. This is the first time I have eaten such delicious snowflake sweets. Even though you do not remember clearly, I plan to personally send someone to search tomorrow and must find this shop." Chapter 805. Shen Miao was speechless. This was made by the Great Liang's imperial chef, and even if Luo Tan returned the entire Ding capital upside down, one fear that she would not be able to find this shop. Shen Miao was somewhat regretful. At that time, she should not have said shop, and it would be better to say it was a small stall. Luo Tan said again, "Older brother Ling also likes to eat pastries and would definitely like this." Finishing, she thought of something and said, "But these few days, older brother Ling is somewhat strange." Shen Miao asked, "What is it?" Her daily concerns were not on this, so she really did not know if there were any changes in Luo Ling other than going to the Ministry of War. He would not come out much after returning to the residence and just practice martial arts in the courtyard. Luo Tan propped her chin up and said, "Older brother Ling was not one who was so harsh on himself in the past. Moreover, these few days when I looked for him to talk, he did not have a good mood, as if he had suffered a blow." Luo Tan looked at Shen Miao. "Biao, youngest sister, you are smart. Do you know what is wrong with him?" Shen Miao said, "I do not follow him all the time, so how would I know what he is thinking about?" Seeing Luo Tan's worried look, she comforted her, "Do not worry. Most likely it is nearing the end of the year, and the Ministry of War will be very busy. It will be better after this period of time." Luo Tan nodded her head, and, just as she was speaking, she saw Shun Xiu and Luo Tan walking in one after another. Seeing both of them in the main hall, Luo Tan called out, "Older brother Chiu, older brother Ling, come over to eat snowflake sweets." Luo Ling entered the room and first looked at Shen Miao. Shen Miao was looking at Shun Xiu with a smile, and his eyes could not help but darken as he walked to one side and sat down. Shen Xiu unceremoniously grabbed a piece of snowflake sweets and stuffed into his mouth. "Why are both of you so free today?" Luo Tan was laughing and joking with Shun Xiao when she heard the servant outside announcing that Shun Xian and Luo Shui Yin had returned. Shun Xiao said, "Just nice. Father and mother have returned, and it is time for us to eat." Shun Xian and Luo Shui Yin walked in from outside, but this time, even the most carefree Luo Tan also felt that something was wrong. Shun Xian's face was livid and his expression was very ugly, while Luo Shui Yin also had an angry look. Usually, even if there were unsatisfactory matters outside, Shun Xian and wife would not show it in front of the children. Moreover, both of them were naturally open-minded, and there were very few things that could anger them. But looking at him today, he was clearly furious. The manservant beside Shun Xian and Luo Shui Yin did not even dare to breathe loudly. He lowered his head and retreated. Luo Tan and Luo Ling were, after all, cousins. Thus, at this moment, she had some doubts in her heart, but it was not good to ask. Shun Xiao wanted to ask, but seeing his father's expression of killing whoever asked, he hesitated and did not dare to open his mouth. Finally, it was Shun Miao who took the initiative to open her mouth. She looked at Shun Xian and Luo Shui Yin and said with a smile, "Why does father and mother look unhappy? Is there something not going well outside?" When Shun Miao opened her mouth, Shun Xian and Luo Shui Yin looked at Shun Miao at the same time. Shun Xian's eyes were filled with remorse, anger, and grievance, while Luo Shui Yin's eyes were filled with deep guilt and helplessness. Shun Miao's heart thumped, but she quickly understood that for Shun Xian and wife to reveal such an expression, it was most likely related to her. Luo Shui Yin took a deep breath and smiled. "It's nothing. It's just some matters regarding the imperial court. Jiao Jiao must be hungry. Let's eat first." It was just that the smile was forced. Even Luo Tan's gaze was solemn. What matter was so serious that Shun Xian and wife, who were always straightforward and fearless, had to hide it? This matter was already so thorny to such a stage. Shun Miao did not speak and did not answer yes or no. She only looked at Shun Xian and wife. Her attitude clearly indicated that she wanted an explanation. She did not believe Luo Shui Yan's explanation at all. Shun Xiao was in a trance and seemed to see Shun Miao from a few years ago. At that time, Shun Miao was still arrogant and was not as close to them as she was now, and was very close to the second and third household. Every time she asked for something from Shun Xian, she would stand in front of them without saying a word and was extremely stubborn. Actually, from the past to now, Shun Miao seemed to have changed a lot, but some habits in her bones had not changed. Shun Xian said, "Jiao Jiao, be obedient." It was rare for him to be so strict with Shun Miao. If it was in the past, Shun Miao would have cried. Luo Ling looked at her with some worry. Shun Miao's expression did not change and still had an indifferent look. She said, "Why did father and mother not tell me the truth? If I am also unable to solve it, at least I can share some of the burden. If I am able to solve it, it would be better. To hide the matter alone, it would seem estranged. I'm not a little child. I am the same as eldest brother, a member of the Shun family." Shun Xian's lips moved, but he still did not speak. Shun Miao looked at him with a pair of eyes as clear as a stream. Under such a gaze, one could not help but tell her the truth. She said, "Moreover, this matter is related to me, right?" Luo Shui Yin was suddenly shocked. Luo Tan and Luo Ling looked at Shun Miao in surprise, and Shun Xiao also had a puzzled look. When Shun Xian heard that, he looked at Shun Miao for a while and finally sighed deeply before smiling bitterly. During the court today, His Majesty sent down an imperial edict to bestow marriage to you, he said with difficulty, to Prince Rui. Chapter 806. When the words were said, the room suddenly became silent. Luo Shuiyin did not dare to look at Shun Miao's eyes, and Shun Xian's voice revealed a deep exhaustion. Luo Ling was stunned, and Luo Tan's mouth was wide open, but it was Shun Xiao who slammed the table and stood up. "What does this matter?" The calmest one was Shun Miao, but even though she looked calm on the surface, there were no waves in her heart. She had long thought of Xie Jingxing's move, but she did not think that Xie Jingxing would dare to do it so blatantly. Wait, how did he let Emperor Wen Hui take the initiative to decree the marriage? Shen Miao was thinking about this, but Shen Xiu could not wait to stand up and anxiously said, "What kind of person is Prince Rue? Younger sister is a Ming Qi's young lady. How can she marry someone from the Great Liang? Is the emperor crazy?" Chua, Luo Shuiyin glared at him. "Be careful with your words. The walls have ears, and it was possible that the heavenly family had spies everywhere." Shen Xiu was so angry that he actually said such disgraceful words. Shen Xiu suddenly shut up and looked at Shen Miao before scratching his ears and cheeks. No matter what, younger sister cannot marry that nuisance Prince Rue. Prince Rue, why is this name so familiar? A light flashed in his mind, and he suddenly clapped his hands. So it is that person. I was wondering why the dignified prince of the Great Liang would take the initiative to greet me. So it was because of younger sister. Hateful. Shen Xian frowned when he heard it and asked, "You have seen Prince Rue before?" "The last time Biao younger brother, and I met him on the way back to the residence. He even invited me to the residence of Prince Rue to compete." Shen Xiu said angrily, "If I knew that he had such thoughts, I would have cut off the horse's leg and let him fall to his death." Shen Miao, Luo Ling was also surprised for a moment before thinking of something and looked toward Shen Miao. Shen Miao was baffled by Luo Ling's complicated gaze and did not have the mood to ask further. She only asked Shen Xian, "This is the imperial decree issued by His Majesty? Why did His Majesty suddenly decree a marriage for me?" If one were to say that there were many marriageable young ladies in the Great Liang, there were a few princesses in the imperial family, and there were also quite a number of Junju. It was true that Shen Miao knew that this was Xie Jingxing's idea, but she still wanted to inquire, how did Xie Jingxing manage to convince Emperor Wen Hui? Shen Xian looked at Shen Miao with deep pain in his heart and paused for a moment before sighing. "Jiao Jiao, it is father who is incompetent." He then slowly narrated the events of today. So when he was in court today, Emperor Wen Hui had finished handling some court matters, and when he was about to leave the court, he suddenly changed the topic and mentioned that Prince Rui of the Great Liang had the intention to marry a Wang Fei from Ming Qi and return to the country. Some of the courtiers were excited, and some were uneasy. Those who loved their daughters naturally did not wish for their daughters to marry far away, while those who wholeheartedly wanted to climb up hoped that their daughters would marry Prince Rui, at least to be a Wang Fei. Emperor Wen Hui did not give everyone a chance to think and directly bestowed marriage. And the young lady who was bestowed the marriage was the daughter of the formidable great general Shen Miao. Everyone was stunned. Everyone knew that Shen Miao was the pearl in Shen Xian's palm, and if Shen Miao was to marry to the Great Liang, one feared that Shen Xian would not be willing. And now that the Ming Qi needed Shen Xian, why would Emperor Wen Hui find trouble with Shen Xian at this time? Even if those courtiers were as cunning as foxes, this time they were unable to see through the emperor's heart. Shen Xian naturally had a stomach full of anger and could not wait to pull out a knife to chop the throne room. He could bear all kinds of grievances, but he could not let his daughter suffer any grievances. Moreover, this time Emperor Wen Hui did not even discuss with him and directly bestowed the marriage for Shen Miao. This meant that the Shen family had no chance to object at all. If they were to object, then it would be defying the imperial edict, and the entire Shen family would die together. One feared that Shen Miao would not be willing. Chapter 807. At the same time, Shen Xian's heart was very puzzled. A few days ago, Emperor Wen Hui wanted to marry Shen Miao to the crown prince, even though he had ulterior motives. But in such a short period of time, he wanted to marry Shen Miao to the prince of the Great Liang. After the court, Emperor Wen Hui called out to Shen Xian and did not let him leave first. Instead, he brought Shen Xian to the imperial study and had a long talk with him. This time, it was the truth behind the bestowal of marriage to Shen Miao. Thus, Shen Xian knew that it was Prince Rui's intention to marry Shen Miao to Prince Rui and Prince Rui used the Ming Qi's border city to threaten Emperor Wen Hui to make this decision. It was said to be the Ming Qi's border city, but the meaning behind it was the entire land of Ming Qi. Emperor Wen Hui was helpless and had no choice but to agree to this request. At the end, Emperor Wen Hui said to Shun Exine, "Zhen is the master of Ming Qi and cannot watch helplessly and ignore the lives of the common people. So General Shun, this time will plead young Lady Shun to be wronged and exchange her life for the safety of the common people. If young Lady Shun knew about it, she would understand Zhen's decision. A subject should listen to the orders of a monarch." Furthermore, the monarch in front of him was explaining the reason and apologizing so sincerely. If it was in the past, Shun Xian would definitely understand and even feel a little grateful. But when Emperor Wen Hui said to her, using one person to exchange for the safety of the common people of the world, Shun Xian's heart felt a trace of coldness. He even felt that the king in front of him, whom he had been loyal to for a lifetime, was actually a little hypocritical. The people of the world, Shun Xian's daughter, was also one of the people of the world. Why should his daughter be the one to be sacrificed? In this lifetime, he had spent most of his life in military campaigns and sacrificed most of his life for Ming Qi. He could even sacrifice his life at any time to protect the common people under the heavens. But if he could not even protect his own daughter, what kind of father was he? He was sacrificed, and now it was his daughter's turn to be sacrificed? Shun Xian did not even hear what Emperor Wen Hui said after that. Most likely he was talking about what Emperor Wen Hui would give to Shen Miao when she got married, so that she would be more glorious. But in Shun Xian's ears, he felt that it was extremely ironic. No matter how selfless a person was, his heart would still be biased toward his loved ones. Especially Shun Xian, he did not bring his daughter along with him for the past few decades, causing Shen Miao to be estranged from both husband and wife. That was what he deserved. Afterwards, it was not easy for the heavens to pity them, and Shen Miao got closer to them, but Shen Miao's temperament had changed a lot, as if she had grown up overnight. Shun Xian saw this and felt pain in his heart. Shen Miao was a little flower that was carefully tended to in the residence, but now this flower had unknowingly grown into a strong tree. To grow so fast, she had lost a lot of things. He was already feeling guilty towards Shen Miao, and now, with this imperial edict, Shun Xian really did not have the face to face Shen Miao. When Shun Xian finished his long speech, everyone in the room was silent, and Shun Xiu did not speak anymore. Emperor Wen Hui had already said it to this point. What else could he do? But was he going to watch Shen Miao get married? It seemed to be too cruel to Shen Miao. Shen Xiu did not dare to think about living with a man whom she had never seen in person, who she did not know what his temperament was like, and whom she could not say that she liked. Shen Miao said, "So it is like this." Her expression was calm, as if she was not affected in the slightest. Everyone then discovered that from knowing about the imperial edict till now, Shen Miao did not reveal a trace of surprise. Luo Shui Yin was afraid that she would suffocate and said, "Jiao Jiao, you do not need to keep it in your heart. The matter has not been decided. Mother need not coax me. The imperial edict is already given and one cannot defy it." Shen Miao smiled. Moreover, it is not a bad thing to marry to Prince Rui. As a Wang Fei, one would not have to worry about food and clothing. Looking at Prince Rui's demeanor at the beginning, even though one could not see his face, one would think that he was a good-looking person. Chapter 808. But you are not acquainted with him. Shen Xiu anxiously said. How do you know how he conducts himself? Isn't the world like this? Shen Miao lightly said, some people get along for a lifetime and do not know the other party's way of life. Marrying to Prince Rui is not as bad as you all think. Staying in the Ding capital, it would be easier for others to plot against my identity, and the Shun family would not be able to protect me. Shen Xian's eyes flashed with a trace of pain. The greater her military power was, the more shackles she had to endure. The more the emperor feared her, the more he wanted to restrain her. Shen Miao's marriage could be manipulated by the crown prince previously. Naturally, it could be manipulated by others. One should not be afraid of thieves stealing, but one should be afraid of thieves remembering. The Shen family indeed could not protect Shen Miao. For the first time in his body and mind, he hated his military power. Great Liang is a good place. Shen Miao smiled slightly, and there was some yearning in her tone. It was written in the travel notes that the Great Liang country was prosperous and the people were peaceful. The doors were not closed at night, and people sang and danced to celebrate peace. The people are happy, and the bandits are purged. It's a good scene. No matter how good the scenery is, you're alone. Luo Shui couldn't bear to continue. Great Liang's Princess Rui is the Qin Wang Fei. He's only below one person and above tens of thousands, so he won't go so far as to bully me. Shen Miao pondered. Since Prince Rui wants to marry me, one cannot say that he has deep feelings for me. Naturally, he would treat me well. She rarely said such teasing words about herself, but made Luo Shuiyin and the rest laugh. Luo Shuiyin smiled. Silly child, he may not necessarily. Her words suddenly stopped. Shen Miao was smart and intelligent. So how would she not know that Prince Rui was most likely not her person, but was here for the Shen family? Saying that was just to reassure them. Thinking of this, Luo Shuiyin felt extremely sad. Shen Miao smiled gently. It is a happy event, but why do you all look so unhappy? If that's the case, it would be bad luck. She said, since the imperial edict has been issued, it won't be long before we are notified. I also have to start embroidering my dowry. There was not a trace of complaint or unhappiness in her tone. Instead, it was very natural, as if this was a marriage that had been proposed for a long time. The more it was like this, the sadder Shen Xian and his wife were. After talking for a while, Shen Miao felt tired, and everyone then ate. The meal was tasteless, and everyone had their own thoughts. After the meal, everyone dispersed to rest. Luo Tan held on to Shen Miao's arm, as she had something to say to Shen Miao. Just as they were walking towards her courtyard, Luo Ling called out to her. Cousin Ling, what's the matter? Shen Miao looked at him and asked. Luo Ling asked, Biao younger sister really want to marry Prince Rui? Luo Tan looked at Luo Ling strangely, and Luo Tan smiled. The imperial edict is already out, whether one wants or not. It has nothing to do with me. I thought you would directly say no. Luo Ling's eyes dimmed, but there was still a smile, just like the rejection of those young masters in the Shaochun city. Shen Miao smiled, but did not speak. Congratulations. He smiled bitterly. Shen Miao nodded her head in thanks. After finally sending off Luo Ling, Luo Tan pulled Shen Miao back to the courtyard and dismissed the servants before closing the door. Lowering her voice, she said mysteriously, Biao youngest sister, you know about this matter, right? What? Shen Miao was baffled. It is the matter of Prince Rui forcing his majesty to bestow a marriage to you, Luo Tan said in a hurry. Shen Miao's heart jumped. Luo Tan was usually carefree and was not sensitive to anything but on matters that she should not know. She had an exceptionally sharp intuition. She dealt with it vaguely. How is it possible? Why is it not possible? Luo Tan's interest was piqued. Do you still remember the last time when we were kidnapped? When I woke up, I brought your words to Prince Rui, and Prince Rui found you not long later. At that time, I was curious about the relationship between the both of you. Your relationship must be very good, otherwise why would Prince Rui help you? Is it like what the books say, heroes and beauties and such? Chapter 809. Shen Miao said, You should read less books. Not to mention books. Luo Tan's hand supported her cheeks. That Prince Rui's ability is not small. At that time, Gugu and Gufu could not find you for several days, but he managed to find you in a short while. Our Luo family only look at one's ability. He is a man with ability, and one heard that he is also very good-looking. This is hard to come by, as many good-looking men are embroidered pillows, pleasant to look at, but useless. Just like that physician, Gao, who often comes to our residence. He is also quite good-looking, but one look, and one would know that he is too weak to stand up to the wind. This kind of man is unreliable, and at most one can only look at him, but not use him. Song Yang, who was listening with relish on the tree branch, almost fell down. Pleasant to look at, but useless. This Biao young lady of the Luo family was also very powerful. One did not know how Gentleman Gao would feel after hearing it. All right. Shin Miao glanced at her, rambling on and on about these things. What matter do you have? Biao youngest sister, I knew that you were the smartest. In the entire Shin residence, you understand me the best. Even my biological younger brother Luo, Qian, does not have the same telepathy with me. Luo Tan looked at Shun Miao with anticipation. I only have one wish. When you go to Great Liang, bring me along. I will be your Biao older sister, accompanying you in marriage. Shin Miao almost fainted. She said in disbelief, What did you say? I have never been to Great Liang. Luo Tan said, One have heard that Great Liang is a good place and there are a lot of good food and fun things to do. This trip that I and older brother Ling came out was to gain experience in the Ding capital. The more places you see, the better it is for you to gain experience. Shun Miao said, It was obviously you who secretly climbed up the carriage. Luo Tan said, If there is still loyalty, then bring me along. Not bring. Shun Miao's heart was as hard as stone. In the next 1 hour, Shun Miao witnessed the scene of Luo Tan dawdling on her body for a long time. Even though she had Xie Jingxing with her, Shin Miao knew that it would not be a smooth journey, and no one could say for sure what would happen in the future, so there was no need to bring Luo Tan along. After Luo Tan left, Shin Miao sighed and opened the windows. There were trees dancing outside, and the winter night was cold and desolate. Xie Jingxing was really capable. She thought that he did not even say a word and took the initiative to give her the imperial decree. Not only did he issue the imperial edict, but he had also disappeared. What did he mean by not appearing at such a crucial moment? Did he run away after flirting with her? Shun Miao slammed the window shut. Shameless. The sound was so loud that Song Yang dug his ears. He thought that it was probably young Madame Kuei Shui who was so temperamental. On the other side, in the courtyard of Shun Xian and wife, Shun Xian was also discussing this matter with Luo Shuiyan. Shun Xian said, Going to Great Liang with Jiao Jiao. Luo Shuiyan nodded her head. We are not by Jiao Jiao's side. If Jiao Jiao met with trouble in Great Liang, the sky is high and the earth is far away. We do not know the grievances she has suffered. In the beginning, wasn't there also a young lady who was married to another country and was killed by her husband's family? This inn did not know? How dare he? Shun Xian flew into a rage, but immediately suppressed his anger and said, I can go, but one fear that the emperor will not let the person go. Luo Shuiyan's voice lowered. Now that the situation between Great Liang and Ming Qi is so tense, if we also go to Great Liang, the emperor would definitely think that we are defecting. It is indeed not appropriate. But is there really no other way? In helplessness, Shen Xian's back faced Luo Shuiyan as he looked at a painting on the wall. That was the painting that old General Shun gave him, devoted to serving the country. He was loyal, and he served the country, but what did he get in return? The Shun family was particular about a ruler under the heavens. If the ruler wanted the minister to die, the minister had no choice but to die. But why did he feel regret at this moment? Chapter 8:10. This sovereign had always guarded against him, suppressed him, and controlled him. Shen Xian did not feel anything, even if the sovereign used him. But why did he want to hurt his own children? Did all the sovereigns in the world treat their loyal subjects like this, or was it only this one? Shen Xian thought that if Emperor Wenhui was in front of Prince Rui and had a little bit of resistance or fight for Shimiao, he would not be as dissatisfied with Emperor Wenhui as he was now. It was because Emperor Wenhui answered in a straightforward manner, as if Shun Miao was nothing in front of the Great Liang, that there was a nod in Shun Xian's heart. If Ming Qi was stronger, would they not need to bow their heads in front of the Great Liang, and one Prince Rui would be able to force the sovereign out of his wits? Shen Xian suddenly had a trace of disgust towards Emperor Wenhui's incompetence. But he did not realize that in this transaction, the resentment that he had towards Emperor Wenhui was much more than that of Prince Rue of the Great Liang. He naturally didn't know that his change of heart had been predicted by a certain someone a long time ago. Luo Shuiyin was still nagging. Why would Prince Rue suddenly want to marry Jiao Jiao? The Great Liang does not lack this bit of military power, and even if it was to sow discord, it would not need to be like this. Shen Xian said, I will go and inquire tomorrow. Sleep first. But tonight was destined to be a sleepless night. Emperor Wenhui announced the imperial decree in front of all the civil and military officials. Thus there was no reason to hide it. In just a short day, almost everyone in the Ding capital knew about it. From the officials to the commoners, everyone were discussing about this matter. The princess' residence was solemn. Princess Rong Xian sat on the main seat and could not help but sneer. Why did she not see that this nephew of hers had such ability? Xie Jingxing had obviously seen Shen Miao in a different light 2 years ago, and after that he became Prince Rue. Princess Rong Xian thought that with Prince Rue's identity, no matter how much Xie Jingxing favored Shen Miao, it would be impossible for him and Shen Miao to be together in this lifetime. She did not expect that Xie Jingxing had this ability and was able to get the thing that she wanted. In the afternoon, Princess Rong Xian went to the palace to meet Emperor Wenhui after learning of the news. She knew that Emperor Wenhui would not bestow a marriage to Shen Miao for no reason, and insisted on knowing the reason. Emperor Wenhui still respected her as an elder sister and told the ins and outs of the matter to Princess Rong Xian. Princess Rong Xian was unable to say what she was feeling in her heart and only felt a chill down her spine. That beautiful youth, the one who always called her Aunt Rong with a smile, was completely different from what she remembered. The current Xie Jingxing was filled with an unfamiliar aura. He could lay low for a few years to get what he wanted, and he would get what he wanted in the end. His domineering attitude, sharp methods, and merciless threats. He was more like a superior. Princess Rong Xian's heart was somewhat afraid. She did not know if she should tell Emperor Wenhui about Xie Jingxing's identity. Even if he told them, nothing would happen. Since Xie Jingxing dared to come, then he must have made thorough preparations. But if one were to tell, at least the common people of Mingqi would know of Xie Jingxing's face and not talk about a young talent who died young all day long. Princess Rong Xian thought for a while, and images of her childhood surfaced in her mind. She did not go out all day and had little interaction with others, and even the maids did not allow them to enter the room at night. At that time, it was the Fuma Memorial Day, and she caught a cold. On the second day, she could not get up from the bed, and her body was strangely cold. Xie Jingxing, who was 5 years old, brought hot porridge from the small kitchen and fed it to her spoonful by spoonful. He even took a small stool and sat in front of her bed and read poems to her. Chapter 811. For such a beautiful little boy to do such a considerate action, as long as it was a female, no one would not be touched. Thinking about it, 10 years had passed in a blink of an eye. They were obviously not mother and son, but they were closer than mother and son, so how did they come to this stage? On one side was the country's enmity, and on the other side was several decades of companionship. Princess Rong Xian's heart suddenly became sad. What should be done? Princess Rong Xian did not know that these days the princess residence's every move was being watched, and it was not just one person. Because their princess residence did not interact with outsiders. Even the guards were somewhat lazy, and her every move was being monitored. In the residence of the Count of Pingnan, Su Minglang looked at the sugar-steamed cheese that the maid brought over and righteously refused. I do not want to eat. Bring it to eldest brother. Now Su Minglang had reached the age of loving beauty, and as compared to the plump and white dumpling, Su Minglang was more willing to be a cute little gentleman. Therefore, although these sweet things smelled very fragrant, he was determined not to touch them. Then he suddenly thought of something and called out to the maid, "Never mind. Do not bring it to eldest brother. If eldest brother were to marry older Shun in the future, How can older Shin dislike eldest brother for being a fatty? The maid looked at Su Ming Lang's little adult appearance and was somewhat speechless as she held the plate and did not know what to do. When Su Ming Lang saw this, he gave a long sigh. Since you were so difficult, then I will reluctantly eat it. He then fiercely warned the maid, "Do not tell mother that I snatched eldest brother's sugar-steamed cheese to eat." Maid in the room, Su Mingfeng did not have the mood to eat any sugar-steamed cheese. He paced back and forth in the room with an anxious expression. Su Yu looked at him sympathetically and patted his shoulder. "Son, father knows that your heart is upset, but this imperial edict was personally given by His Majesty. Father is also helpless and can only say that your luck is not good and the young lady that you fancy is not fated with. But fortunately young Shun is going to marry Prince Rue and would have to go to the Great Liang. What the eyes do not see, the heart does not grieve. After some time, you will forget about her." Emperor Wenhui had given the imperial edict, and Su Yu and Su Foreign were most afraid that Su Mingfeng would not be able to bear this blow. After telling him tactfully, Su Mingfeng locked himself in the study. Su Foreign was afraid that Su Mingfeng would commit suicide, and specially let Su Yu go in to persuade him. "Father, can you not give me more trouble?" Su Mingfeng said impatiently. "I am not sad because of this." "Son, do you think I don't know what you're thinking?" Su Yu said, "It's a waste to be a playboy. I was your age as well. It's nothing. There are plenty of fish in the sea. You have to be more open-minded." Su Mingfeng could not bear it any longer and said, "All right, father, I know. I want to be alone now and will not commit suicide. Can you let me be alone for a while?" Seeing that the usually gentle Su Mingfeng's face had started to show signs of displeasure, Su Yu was afraid that if he continued speaking it would stimulate Su Mingfeng's fragile heart of a young male. So he smiled awkwardly. "In short, father will work hard to find a fairy-like young lady for you to be your wife. Do not be sad." He left dejectedly. After Father Su left, Su Mingfeng sat down in front of the desk, and his heart was inexplicably irritated. Emperor Wenhui suddenly decreed a marriage for Shin Miao. This made Su Mingfeng very surprised. After all, a few days ago, Shan Miao and the Crown Prince had a relationship. So why was she together with Prince Rue today? Su Mingfeng did not have time to guess Emperor Wenhui's thoughts as he was thinking about Shin Miao. Shin Miao and Xie Jingxing seemed to have a deep relationship 2 years ago and a few days ago. Because of the tiger head bracelet, Su Mingfeng was sure that Shan Miao and Xie Jingxing had a special relationship. Su Mingfeng even suspected that Xie Jingxing was still alive. If one wanted to find news of Xie Jingxing, one must pay attention to Shin Miao. But why did the matter of Shin Miao and Prince Rue's marriage make him so uneasy? It was as if something was about to come out and something was about to happen. This kind of strange premonition made Su Mingfeng's entire person abnormal today. Just as he was restless, someone came back from outside. This was the spy that Su Mingfeng sent out and was responsible for sending people to monitor the princess residence and the Shin Mansion. Su Mingfeng felt that Princess Rong Xin might know something and needless to say about Shin Miao. That spy bowed toward Su Mingfeng and said, "There's a way to investigate the matter that young master instructed this subordinate to investigate a few days ago." Su Mingfeng's heart was delighted and immediately sat up straight. "Quickly speak." This subordinate's people followed the guards of the princess residence and discovered that someone had been monitoring the movements of the residence of Prince Rue. If this subordinate guessed correctly, it should be Princess Rong Xian's instructions. There seemed to be a few people from the guards of the residence of Prince Rue lurking in the Shin Mansion. One do not know if they are monitoring or protecting fifth Shin young lady. Su Mingfeng's brows wrinkled. Why were they all Prince Rue? Princess Rong Xian was monitoring Prince Rue, and Prince Rue was monitoring Shin Miao? But he was obviously looking for clues about Xie Jingxing. Could it be? A terrifying thought flashed through his mind. Su Mingfeng's heart violently beat. Chapter 812. These few days the Shun family had fallen into a very strange mood. Because of Shun Miao's marriage bestowal imperial edict, everyone was filled with gloomy clouds. Even though everyone tried their best to show joy, at the end they could not hide the gloominess. Shen Xian and Luo Shuiyin both left early and returned late every day. It seemed that they were looking for a way to dissolve this marriage, but they returned without any success. Thinking about it, since Emperor Wenhui announced this imperial edict in front of all the civil and military officials, most likely it was to cut off Shun Xian's thoughts of defying the edict. A ruler does not joke, and words that were said were like water that was spilled. In the previous dynasty, there was a princess who fancied the top scorer, and at that time the top scorer already had a wife. Was it not because of the words a ruler does not joke that he divorced his wife and remarried? When Shen Qiu saw Shun Miao, he would always reveal a look of guilt. These days, he would frequently give Shen Miao some rare treasures and would only say, "Older brother does not have any ability and can only find these things for you." Shen Miao was speechless about the atmosphere in the Shun family. She naturally knew that the matter was not that bad, but these could not be said to the Shun family. If Shun Xian knew what Xie Jingxing's real motive was, one did not know how big a fuss he would make. In Mingqi, she had to take care of the Shun family, and it was not convenient for her to do many things. If she was in the Great Liang, she could use Xie Jingxing's name to do many things, and it would be much easier. She looked relaxed, but others thought that she was pretending. Today, when she was sitting in the room reading, she saw Bai Lu rushing in. "Young lady, Foreign wants you to quickly go to the main hall. The people from the residence of Prince Rue have sent the list of betrothal gifts." Shen Miao was startled. Betrothal gifts list? Xie Jingxing was really daring to the extreme. He clearly knew that the Shun family did not like him and even hated him so much, but still dared to send the list of betrothal gifts over. If this was not adding oil to the fire, then what was it? But thinking of Xie Jingxing's unscrupulous character, it was indeed something that he would do. Upon reaching the main hall, one could see Luo Shuiyin holding a long thing from afar, and beside Luo Shuiyin, Shun Xiu and Shen Xian were also standing with their heads stretched out. Luo Tan was covering her mouth, and Luo Ling's gaze was complicated. In short, everyone's expression was very strange. When Shun Miao stepped into the room, she then discovered that other than the Shun family, there was another person standing in the room. When she saw that person's appearance clearly, Shen Miao almost choked on herself. This person was a middle-aged man with a face full of beard, and Shen Miao had seen him before. He seemed to be Xie Jingxing's bodyguard, and Song Yang also called him Tai. At a glance, one could tell that this person was a brave and mighty person. Today, he was wearing a bright red robe. The robe was embroidered with colorful phoenixes and auspicious clouds using thin golden peach silk threads. It was probably for the sake of a happy atmosphere. However, Tai Yi's skin was dark to begin with. Wearing this robe, his previous heroic aura was completely concealed, making him look extremely stupid. Seeing her, Tai Yi bowed to her and said in a serious tone, "Wang Fei." This time, even Shen Qiu could not help but cough. He glared at Tai. Do not call out randomly. Tai Yi simply did not care about him. Shen Miao inexplicably wanted to laugh. Was Xie Jingxing here to smash the scene? Even if it was a list of betrothal gifts, it should be found a joyous matron to read it. The residence of Prince Rue was so rich, and yet they had to let Tai Yi, such a big and burly man, to read it. This was purposely making others laugh. Seeing Shan Miao standing there in a daze, Luo Tan called out to her, "Biao, youngest sister, why are you standing there in a daze? Quickly come and look at this betrothal gift list." She winked at Shen Miao and seemed to be very excited. Shen Miao then walked over. That betrothal gift list was very exquisite. It was a long roll of fragrant wood that was sprinkled with gold powder, and the cover was inlaid with emerald green cat's eye stones. It was very luxurious. Even this betrothal gift list was not cheap. Even though Shan Xian and wife were not vain people, but Prince Rue's actions showed that he valued Shen Miao, and his complexion became better. Chapter 8:13. Luo Shuiyin handed the list of betrothal gifts to Tai Yi and said, "Read it." According to Ming Qi's custom, the list of betrothal gifts must be sung by the male side. The longer it was sung, the more generous the betrothal gifts and the more decent the female side would be. It was obvious that Tai Yi was not used to doing this kind of thing as he flipped to the first page and dryly sang. One Wang Wali bed surrounded by begonia flowers. One Luohan bed with 3 screens. One Wang Wali top cabinet. One Wang Wali wood cabinet. One Nama bookcase. One Nama treasure cabinet. One pair of Kalpi red vase. One Wang Wali con table. One pair of Wang Wali gold coin cabinet. The first page was furniture, and everyone was dumbstruck when they heard it. So many things. Even if it was placed in the current Shin mansion, it would not be able to fit. This was enough to place 3 residences. He heard Tai Yi sing again. A rui made of agarwood inlaid with jade. A rui made of fine jade. A lamp made of tin foil. A small gold-plated clock. A silver pocket watch. A pot of green jade and emerald bamboo bonsai. A pot of silver-plated plum blossom bonsai. A plain tricolor 18 seed plate. A pot of powder enamel tea. A sigh of Chin's virginity wine. A bamboo and plum blossom double happiness hanging mirror. A splendor hanging screen. Every single item was worth a lot and would be able to exchange for a few years of an ordinary family's expenses. This Prince Rue came with such a large pile. Even if one had money, it would not be used like this. Luo Tan sniffed and somewhat timidly pulled Shun Miao's sleeves. "What does Prince Rue's family do? Are you a salt merchant?" Luo Shuiyin and Shun Xian also frowned. This Prince Rue's betrothal gifts were too generous. But without giving them time to be surprised, Tai Yi had already continued to sing. The third page was daily necessities. He sang 6 boxes of boxwood comb, 2 boxes of xiang and shu bamboo comb, 1 red sandalwood dressing box, mouthwash, sandalwood soap, curtains, satin door curtains, glass bead door curtains, green water, 5 color tassels, mandarin duck pillow, 8 beds and 8 covers. Everyone in the Shun family. Tai Yi continued to the 4th page of clothing. Big fur chi-style clothing, silver mouse skin, gray mouse skin, sheepskin, pearl fur, 12 sets of various cotton chi-style clothing, 32 sets of gauze clips, silk clips, satin clips, and cloth clips. Single shirt, spun silk, fox silk. There were 12 sets of cotton, silk, and chiffon printed gowns. 5 blessings holding longevity. Phoenixes wearing peonies, 100 butterflies wearing flowers, 10,000 words unbuttoned clothes, 12 sets. 30 hides of fine silk, 6 bolts of scented cloud muslin, 20 bolts of woven brocade, 10 bolts of cloud brocade, 10 bolts of Sichuan brocade, and 12 bolts of silk yarn. 36 embroidered satin quilts, 20 pairs of embroidered shoes, 40 pairs of silk stockings. Luo Shuiyin couldn't help but ask, "This, little brother, could it be that you took the wrong betrothal gift list from Prince Rue? This is not right. How is this marrying a wife? This was Princess Shang's procession." "No, not even Princess Shang is so particular about it." Tai Yi said expressionlessly. "It will not happen. The residence of Prince Rue only has this list of betrothal gifts. Madam, please continue to listen." He sang the 5th page of gold and silver jewelry. 1 plate of coral pearls, gold foil pearls, beeswax pearls, agarwood pearls, for pieces of green jade ornaments, for pieces of white jade ornaments, 2 pieces of crystal accessories, pearl bracelets, emerald bracelets, coral bracelets. He sang the 6th page of antique calligraphy and painting. 4 pairs of woven gold-colored porcelain vases, 1 pair of Lang Hong jade vases, 1 pair of Chung Hua color vases, 1 Xuan de blue, glazed white plum vase. He sang the 7th page of 4 boxes of books, 1 box of 4 treasures of the study. He sang the 8th page of maids and servants and personal guards. He sang the 9th page of horses and vehicles. The 10th page of everyone in the Shun family. The more Tai Yi sang, the smoother he got, and the longer he sang, the more he sang. Compared to those old students in the Shao Chun city, the lingering charm lingered in the air. Every sentence he sang made one feel as if they were seeing a large amount of shining silver. When he finished singing the last sentence, he subconsciously stopped and let out a long breath before closing the betrothal gift list. He then looked towards Shun Miao. Chapter 814. The property shops were not included in the list of gifts because they were all in Great Liang. Tai Yi smiled sincerely. Your Highness, if you convert all of them into gold and silver, it would be 10,000 pounds of gold. 5,000 jin of gold. Luo Ten almost fainted. Tai Yi continued. The bought residence of Prince Rui to the Shun Mansion and all the other residences in between are also included. Someone will send the land deeds over later. He respectfully handed the list of betrothal gifts to Luo Shuiyin and said, May Furen accept it. Luo Shuiyin did not accept it. Everyone in the room was dumbfounded. Luo Shuiyin did not dare to accept it. That was 10,000 jin of gold, and there was such a long list of betrothal gifts. Was their Shun family going to become the wealthiest family in Mingqi? Did Prince Rui really not move the Great Liang's treasury over? Was Prince Rui's brain sick? Shin Xian frowned. It was still Shin Xiu who reacted first. He hesitated and carefully probed. Does your emperor know about the list of betrothal gifts that Prince Rui wrote? Tai Yi was stunned. Then he thought of something and smiled. Your Majesty doesn't care much about worldly possessions. Moreover, it's not a big amount. Seeing the Shun family's shocked appearance, Tai Yi continued. In the Great Liang's imperial family, gold, silver, and pearls are like sand, stones, and fine soil everywhere. Everyone was in awe. It seemed that the Great Liang was indeed rich, and the people were strong, rich to the point of overflowing with oil. Such a generous betrothal gift that could fill the Ming Qi's treasury in an instant. In their eyes, it was just like sand and stones. How rich was it? Tai Yi continued. But, General Foreign, please be assured that His Highness marrying Shun young lady is all according to the Great Liang imperial family's rights. Only then did Luo Shuiyin and Shun Xian wake up. Even though they were not lacking in gold and silver, they still paid special attention to Shun Miao's matter and followed etiquette. He also sighed that Shun Miao's betrothal gift was not even half as rich as the one that Emperor Wen Hui won from the Empress. If it was an ordinary official marrying a wife, they would naturally have to consider that they could not be more generous than the royal family. But Prince Rui was not a Ming Qi person, but a Great Liang person, so naturally there was no need to consider this layer. Even if it was richer than the imperial family would not say anything. As such, Shun Miao's betrothal gift should be the grandest since the founding of Ming Qi. Shun Xian and Luo Shuiyin finally had a trace of comfort in their hearts. No matter what, since the imperial edict could not be changed, Shun Miao was destined to marry Prince Rui. Marrying out in style was at least the lifelong wish of many young ladies, and it could be considered as a compensation for Shun Miao. Thinking of this, the bad feeling that the two of them had towards Prince Rui had dissipated by quite a bit. Even their attitude towards the bearded man in front of them was much more amiable. Luo Shuiyin asked, but why haven't they sent the Gong invitation over? Before the marriage, one would need to match the 8 characters of the 8 characters. But because Shun Miao's marriage was very special, it was Emperor Wen Hui who directly decreed the marriage. Thus this round was skipped. Tai Yi said, His Highness had already let a famous monk calculate his and Shun young lady's 8 characters, and they are a match made in heaven, companions who have cultivated for 500 years. Today, madam, please hand over the title card to me. His Highness' title card will be sent along with the title deed. The other party's attitude was very sincere, as if no one could find fault with him no matter what. Luo Tan could not help but ask, when is the wedding date? In His Majesty's imperial edict, there was no specific time mentioned. Tai Yi smiled. The marriage invitation is already done. His Highness will return to the Great Liang after the end of the year, and on the day of returning to the Great Liang, he will marry Shin young lady. She will wear red makeup all the way until the Great Liang's capital city gates. That was equivalent to saying that from the Ming Qi's wedding, there would be gongs and drums all the way until they returned to the Great Liang. After completing all kinds of wedding ceremonies in Ming-Chi, it would be officially announced to the great Liang's people upon returning. It was as if Shun Miao was raised to a very high position to announce to the world that Shun Miao was Princess Rui's identity. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.